against the Jets. And that's where we sit. Schmidt's kick. And it's just short of the end zone. Plus the 40, 50. One man to beat, and he's going to score. 99 yards. And the Jets with the answer they were looking for as Wangu takes it to the house. Two possessions, a couple of 3-and-outs. Sandwiching that 95-yard touchdown drive. Bojorquez's punt. There's a flag thrown here. Isaiah Williams has his seat.
Oh, no
Williams
way.
Inside Cleveland territory, and he's going to score.
Backwards.
Well done by Devin Bush, their second leading tackler. Fields, boy, hit on the release, gets it out to Hall. Hall, open real estate. Hall, touchdown. No flags. 42 yards from Breece Hall.
Oh, and don't tell me. They got him.
Are you
That's
kidding?
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
If it's on Cleveland.
How do you have a quarterback that throws for 167 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions while losing the game? That was how that happens. That, ladies and gentlemen, that is your Cleveland Browns, and this is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I am Rob Rozycki, and the two furrowed brows directly to the side of me, Eli Moon, Double A, Anthony Alford. We have a whole lot to get to today. Obviously, the breaking news that has happened less than a few hours ago from Jeff Pass and Pablo Torre. The only way maybe a Cleveland sports team can have a worse day than the Cleveland Browns. We'll get into the new charges that have been dropped on the relievers for the Cleveland Guardians. But first, I guess in Cleveland on Sunday, we're mandated to talk Cleveland Browns football to start things off with. Where do you want to start with, gentlemen? We have the game itself. You just saw the highlights, 27-20. The New York Jets, yes, those New York Jets, the ones who just traded Sauce Gardner, a couple of other big pieces on defense. They put 27 down on the Browns, giving the Browns their 7th loss on the season. Both teams are now 2-7. You want to go there, or do you want to go with the off-field exodus in the front office, the Shedeur Sanders crap? What do we want to do here, guys?
Double A, you know what? I feel like we should start with the on the field because that's currently what's on my mind. For somebody that has defended Kevin Stefanski for weeks since we have reincarnated this show and brought it back to all you wonderful viewers out there right now tuning in with us on an early start. So thank you for tuning in on the Inside Edge Network. But when we did this show, we started it back up. I had Kevin Stefanski's back, man. I said, look, he's only able to deal with what he gets. Andrew Berry is in charge of the draft. Paul DePodesta, we'll talk about, has some hand in strategizing with Andrew Berry in the front office to draft these players and provide the free agent signings, the acquisitions by trade, whatever have you. Stefanski's got a coach, and I think for the most part he had done a decent job. But at some point, we have to look at the guy who is responsible for putting the best option out at every position. And right now, Kevin Stefanski is blundering at the position that the Browns were so in love to bring him in to Cleveland with in the first place, which is quarterback. Dillon Gabriel, I get it. At the end of the day, did Dillon Gabriel necessarily look bad stat-wise? No. 17-32, 167 passing yards, 2 tutties. I get no picks. That's great. But it's just the plays that you watch when you watch this game, Double A, that are like, he's not an NFL quarterback, which makes me wondering if he is this bad and they think he's better than Shedeur, like how bad is Shedeur? I just don't believe that's the case. And I think this is a bigger indictment on Stefanski.
We are evaluating a bad workplace where everyone thinks they're doing a great job. I mean, this is really this is a workplace where everyone thinks things are going really well on the inside, but everyone on the outside looking in knows this is hot trash. All of it is hot trash. And even the last clip that we played where, you just got to make the Jets punt on 4th down. And we got guys jumping off sides. We got guys holding who's not even involved with the play. And to Eli's point, maybe Shedeur is trash because I'm watching a quarterback today who has no business being on the field for any NFL team. No business being on an NFL team. And either it's a conspiracy that Shedeur is not cracking the field and is not playing for this team, or really he's that garbage. He's that much of hot garbage and trash that, and if Shedeur can't beat that guy, Shedeur doesn't belong in the league. So I don't know what it is. I'm sitting here and all week long we're talking about, is Stefanski or Barry, are they a package deal? Are they not a package deal? What's going on with Paul DePodesta? What's going on? So I'm evaluating something that we can't evaluate, which is how good are they as employees in the office as opposed to what these guys are doing on Sundays, because on Sundays it's a complete F. But apparently what's going on between Monday and Saturday is good enough for all of these guys to keep their jobs. And honestly, none of them should be employed. None of them.
Yeah, and it's
on. But apparently they're great employees that they're good enough to stick around. Even Paul DePodesta, who somehow fell his way to a job with the Rockies, another garbage organization.
I was going to say that's not
a job there, and he's with Jimmy Haslam in New York at the Meadowlands because it's all sunshine and roses, even though he has 99 freaking losses on his record. Absolute trash. But we have to evaluate the fact that, they're great employees during the week in the locker room. The stuff that happens on Sunday doesn't matter.
Well, and go ahead, Rozycki. Go ahead.
Well, and I kind of agree with the whole Stefanski thing right now, but I'm not where you guys are on the quarterback. Yeah, he did not look good today, but he didn't turn the ball over. And yeah, you do have the 2 touchdown passes. I honestly thought they were all like, everything he was throwing was basically just dying ducks, but it did work. Dillon Gabriel was not the reason why the Browns lost today. How it was special teams and it was dipshit penalties in the last 2 minutes of the game. That is coaching. That is on Stefanski. That is on the coaching staff. So I'm not really quite where you guys are at on the quarterback. I would like to see Shedeur play, but I don't think Gabriel is as bad as we're making him out to be. Now, to your second point, Double A, with all of the arrogance here in the front office, in the coaching staff, with the organization. I remember a few weeks ago we talked about teams that didn't realize what they were. I think that was more in a college football context. Programs that may have thought that, okay, we should be getting 2 national titles every decade, even though they're, mid-level, whatever school. The Browns, on a lot of levels, are a team that doesn't know who they are. The self-realization here, the self-actualization is not there. Yes, they think they're a lot smarter than everybody else. They, the arrogance that comes down with, why are you even asking me these types of questions? Why are you even questioning our process right now? Well, Kev, we're questioning your process right now because it's a 2-7 football team, and everybody should be. The other thing is with the trade deadline. The Browns, 2-6 going into that trade deadline, were behaving like a team that was in it. Like they were behaving like a team that had a chance at the playoff. You don't trade in Njoku. You don't trade a lot of the big pieces on defense because you think that somehow you can salvage this either this year or we can reload in the draft and reload in free agency and just go off next year like nothing happened. I hate to say it, guys. This is a studs down, tear down rebuild. Like, you got to do it. And this team, on a lot of levels, they think they're smarter than they are. They think the team is better than it actually is. They just don't know what is going on right now. And we're seeing that big time happen on the field because there's no reason why you guys should have lost to the Jets. There's none. Just Quinnen Williams, they traded Sauce Gardner, they traded a lot of great talent. That should have been a shooting fish in the barrel game, a get right game. You guys were talking about it even a couple of weeks ago when they were, playoffs. Using this
easy, Rozycki.
No.
Easy.
No. There's a discussion they're having in Baltimore right now, and I get it. They're a much better football franchise, but don't look down. But the Baltimore Ravens are 4-5. If I'm not mistaken,
they're 4-5. Yeah, but the Browns, they're 2-7. And
what I'm saying is the discussion we had about the Browns is like, oh, don't look now, but the schedule's very favorable. You could just take that conversation and apply it to the Ravens. Because the Ravens, very favorable schedule. They have Lamar Jackson. The Ravens could contend for the AFC North. That's just,
I understand maybe that with the Ravens. That's a special case, though. The Ravens, unlike the Browns, drafted a pretty good quarterback and didn't trade him. So, you got a 2-time MVP in Lamar Jackson there. On a very beat up defense. Like there were honestly reasons why they could see, a direct, pathway between 2-6 or 2-5, whatever they were, and possible playoff run. The Browns, Dylan Gabriel is never going to be confused for Lamar Jackson. Quinshon Judkins, at least right now in his rookie year, is never going to be mistaken for Derrick Henry. And it's just a completely different deal.
Well,
but this was one of those games, though, that when we were talking about the soft schedule, that you were supposed to win, and that's when they had Sauce Gardner, and that's when they had Quinnen Williams. So yeah, there's no reason wwhy you guys should have lost this game.
And that's what it comes down to, Rob. And that's what me and AA are hammering home. And with the AA's point, it's the Ravens are a winning franchise, and since the birth of the Baltimore Ravens, since they took it from Cleveland, they've been a winning franchise. They've made winning moves. The Cleveland Browns, despite a few years where we had just a little glimmer of hope with, as we keep mentioning, week after week with Baker Mayfield. I mean, and I know it's something some people will say it's beating a dead horse and bringing him up, but really that was the only real true moment where you're like, we have maybe the next 10 to 15 years with a quarterback. We don't have to figure that out. We have it. And that's why it's frustrating. This was a demoralizing loss. You want to talk about just a demoralizing loss? This is it. Because not only, like you mentioned, Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, two best players on their defense moved at the trade deadline. But also, you make all these moves. You make all this, the Browns are in the headlines for multiple reasons. We talked about Paul DePodesta going to the Rockies. We obviously have heard about Tommy Rees taking over the play calling. And this is supposed to be like a shakeup for Cleveland. And it looked like the same old when it came down to it. And I get it. Dylan Gabriel didn't look bad stat-wise, Rob. But like I said, it's watching the tape. And at the end of the day, the tape don't lie. He is not a starting quarterback for an NFL team. And that is an indictment on Kevin Stefanski because all training camp, he was ahead of Shedeur Sanders. And like I said, I just have a hard time believing that Shedeur Sanders is bad. Considering we were talking about him being a first-round pick, top 2 pick now earlier this year.
You know what? It's an indictment on Shedeur Sanders. Why is this kid not good enough to play over Dylan Gabriel?
I think, and this goes back into the crap with the Browns, that there is some politics to be played here. We're not playing the best players. We're not doing what's best for the team. We're doing what's best to save egos, save legacy, save reputation, save standing in the building. And I don't think Shedeur was wanted on draft day. I don't think it was Stefanski nor Barry's idea to draft Shedeur on 5th round. I think that was a Jimmy Haslam call. And I think that there is something in there about I'm not going to let Jimmy be right. I'm not going to. And it might honestly take Jimmy coming down saying, okay, you're going to start Shedeur this week or I'll hire somebody who will. And that might come down to that. Who knows? But I think there are some political bullshit in here with the Browns. Again, we just talked about this team, about how the arrogance and the intelligence and all this stuff, the focus isn't there. It's just, they're worried about all the wrong things right now, because I think Jimmy would look at this as a success. Look at the team evaluations. It's skyrocketed. He got his brand new, football world in Brook Park. He has gotten a lot of wins as the Browns owner. Just none of them have really happened on the field.
But we talk about it all the time about how we got to put our quarterback in a position, especially a rookie quarterback, a good position to get a chance to play. And I believe, and I get it, it hasn't been a full season or whatever.
Oh, Dylan Gabriel was running for his life. If you want to talk about good positions to put a rookie.
I get it, but I'm talking about opponents. At the end of the day, there's not a better spot you could have put Shedeur in and seen what he could offer than the New York Jets while they unloaded on their, got rid of their defense, basically, the heart and soul of their defense. So it's just crazy to me. How is it that a guy who was being talked about as a Heisman contender, a top 2 pick, isn't even in talks to be on the field? It's just crazy. And I just don't believe that he's not good or better than Dylan Gabriel. So I just think this is what it comes down to. If you don't put Shedeur in next week, I think Stefanski is ultimately just giving up as the coach of the Browns. I think he's just going to ride with Gabriel. Whatever happens, happens.
Stefanski we're already ahead of the game. He already put in his 2 weeks when he gave up the offensive play call to Tommy Rees. Like, second year in a row, he gave up. Stefanski doesn't care. Stefanski, if he is let go tonight, he's cool. He's good. His family's good. Stefanski's fine. He ain't got nothing to worry about. You don't give up play calling if you don't care about staying with the team. Like, come on now. The only thing, though, and I will challenge this, Dylan Gabriel didn't play bad. Dylan Gabriel,
he was the best quarterback on the field today, for what it's worth.
Gabriel is playing to his maximum potential. The problem is, I watched some plays here today, and we have a problem at left tackle. We do. We got a big problem at left tackle.
Yeah.
We got a big problem with we need extra help on the left side. And I watched Dylan Gabriel run into sacks. So we got a problem there. But with that being said, I know we've been saying, as fans, and I hear it, I'm around people that's just like, they're waiting. Some people are waiting for Dylan Gabriel to fail so Shedeur can play. And I don't think that's right either. But I'm sitting here, I'm like, Dylan Gabriel is so limited. And to your point, Rob, about the politics, you're 2-7. Hell, you were 2-6 going into today. So even the angle of the politics shouldn't even matter. Like, you're 2-6.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't matter. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, what is Shedeur doing wrong to not overtake this effing job? Like, he has never really been hurt in college, but he has all these back injuries in the NFL, and he's not getting live reps in games.
Well, and the other thing is too is that maybe this has changed from the beginning of the season, where we thought this quarterback class coming up through the draft was going to be a lot better than it was. But, the guys that we thought were going to be the tent poles, Nussmeier and LSU, he was left with an injury yesterday. Arch Manning probably is not going to come out this year. You got the Carson Beck in Miami. They're not really as good as advertised. I think Mendoza in Indiana right now, he's kind of your top guy. They're not going to be getting that silver bullet quarterback next year. They're not going to be doing it. So they might have to look at what Shedeur, what Gabriel, what whoever's going to have to be doing for next year too. So,
and that's what I had mentioned, Rob.
Yeah.
And Rob, I had said that literally about a month ago when you sat here and, not to call you out, Rob, but you had said when the Browns draft top 5, another quarterback. And I said, that's not going to happen because I kind of just, not to be, Nostradamus here, but I just didn't think it was a strong class besides like the diamonds you're going after, which is Arch Manning, and then some other guys, maybe Carson Beck, we'll see, whatever. But I just believe that the only path for the Browns going into next season is, unfortunately, we're going to have to keep riding with Dylan Gabriel, which doesn't look promising. And to Double A's point, we know what the future is. We're going to be in competition with the bad teams and get smoked by the good teams. Option B is you put Shedeur Sanders in and see what he can do and see if he is the franchise quarterback, because that was the talk at one point between everybody in the media world and anybody that watched football. Or C, you're going to have to make a trade or free agent signing and go after a Kyler Murray who's disgruntled, and him and the Cardinals talk about parting ways, going after one of these veterans that just want to find a home one more time. And that's just, that's your only options. And
that's
I think
what we're
option B is
doing
your
last
best
year.
option. Yeah.
The only reason why a veteran quarterback is a free agent, there's never any good reasons. There just isn't. It's going to be Kyler Murray washing out. It's going to be Tua Tagovailoa washing out. It's going to be whoever at this point. You're going to be getting another man's trash. So they have to figure this out for sure. We could definitely keep going with this.
Let me mention one other quick stat about the game specifically before we move on, because I know, Rob, you're going to get some major breaking news in a second. After 3 quarters of this game, the Jets had 0 passing yards. After 3 quarters, 0 passing yards. And at the end of the game, they finished – the number's not impressive. They finished with 42 passing yards. It's only impressive because they won the game. And one of those passing plays was basically a screenplay to Breece Hall.
Do you know how long that play was? 42 yards. That was the total output of their passing game. 6 for 11, 54 yards, a TD and a pick for Justin Fields, and that's how he gets the win.
If this game did anything, let's just – and they're not going to do it, but let's just say, we're going to relieve Kevin Stefanski of his duties tonight. They're not going to do it, but let's just say that they do it. We have said all this time that, Jim Schwartz is the guy that you give the interim head coaching position to. He's the guy, he's leading the number 1 defense. I'm not seeing a defense that is handling business in clutch situations ever. I'm not seeing it.
No, they fold up pretty quickly whenever there's a 2-minute drill, whenever there's a, hey, we got to keep this game close. There's a,
I'm watching. It burns in my mind the London game against the Vikings. We need our defense. Our offense is struggling a little bit. We need our defense to step up and make a few stops, and we're good to go. No. They let the Vikings drive right down. I think it was with Carson Wentz, drive right down the field and score. Yeah. And then today, the Jets, who had 0 passing yards, 0 after 3 quarters, number 1 defense just let them go right down the field and score. So don't tell me that we have the number 1 defense and that Jim Schwartz is the guy to lead this team. None of them should lead this team into the future. None.
Yeah, the defenses gave up, just like we talked about Stefanski giving up, and the defense gave up a long time ago, and I think it's a byproduct of just seeing how bad the offense has been this year. Rozycki,
for what it's worth, too, Mary Kay Cabot is saying on Twitter that Stefanski says he will be sticking with Dylan Gabriel and will continue to coach him up.
That's fine. We'll stick with the Browns. Let's move on to the Guardians.
Much more pleasant.
This will be the last show. As long as Dylan Gabriel is the starting quarterback, this will be the last show that the Browns lead this show. Unless they win. Forget it. Move on to the Guardians.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's perfect timing, man. Come on, push the door in.
Yeah, well, hey, they got a few more games to do it. But, the only team in Cleveland that had a worse day than the Browns, and, because this is involving possible 65 years in federal prison. Cleveland Guardians pitchers Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz, remember they were polled mid-season throughout gambling allegations and put on the commissioner's list. They were officially charged with fraud, conspiracy, and bribery stemming from an alleged scheme to rig individual pitches that led to gamblers winning literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that is according to an indictment that was unsealed by federal prosecutors on Sunday. Ortiz, he was detained, or he was arrested in Boston, I believe today or late last night. Clase is still on the lam. He is not in custody yet. I wonder if he's going to be going to the DR pretty soon.
Yeah, he probably will be.
But yes, it looks like the New York Eastern District is at this again. They were the same ones that charged Rozier and the NBA boys. So more gambling. We knew that Clase and Ortiz were probably never going to pitch again. We didn't know exactly what was the nitty gritty of this thing, the nuts and bolts of it. Apparently, and this is according to Pablo Torre, and Pablo Torre finds out, and the indictment, Clase was the one that was seeking out bettors to throw money down on either ball strike first pitch of an inning, or a speed. And Ortiz got into it about a month before everybody got popped. Clase was about 2.5 years that he was doing this kind of stuff, according to the indictment. So, yeah, and the bettors, they guesstimate $450,000 they made off of these guys tanking pitches. So we now have, I guess, kind of a resolution to this. At least we know what the nitty-gritty is. And now I'm hearing Clase straight up legitimately being compared to Pete Rose. So that's always a good thing for the Guardians.
Double, if you don't mind, I think I'll take this one first. And I'll just say, it's kind of crazy. I've thought about this from a bunch of, a bunch of different thoughts, I should say, on this subject. One, as a Guardians fan, though I am hard on them, and I know I'm the one who's like the Debbie Downer of the group when it comes to them not getting it done when they need to win it all. When it comes down to it, I'm a Guardians fan, and this is unfortunate. Obviously, it sucked when it happened. Yeah, I mean, look, man, I'm trying to watch. Trying to watch my language a little bit, man. All right.
World War I was unfortunate. Yes. Okay.
So, but obviously, like you said, Rob, we kind of had a feeling they weren't going to pitch again for the Guardians, so we already knew that. But it just sucks that this is like the light that the Guardians are getting right now in the offseason. It's not because they signed a big free agent like we'd all hope or whatever. It's because of this that happened, obviously, over the last year or so with Ortiz and with Clase. I think it's also crazy that, like, I don't know. We were talking about, like, 2 years ago, Clase being one of those guys that could go down as one of the best relievers in Guardians history.
He was definitely on a Hall of Fame track.
Correct. And that's, like, crazy. And, like, he was beloved by the Guardians. I guess it's just kind of, like, I mean, I don't know, man. I guess you never know. You never know who's doing what, I guess, kind of, and he was doing that. Now, I will say this. I did see it was 65 years in prison if they are, proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe it's wrong, and I am no lawmaker or anything. I just think 65 years for gambling is kind of nuts when there's bigger issues at hand, and those don't get the same type of treatment and seriousness.
Chappelle in Half Baked, 20 years for weed? What? Yeah.
I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Well, here's the breakdown. Well, real quick, here's the breakdown. They could face up to 20 years in prison for the wire fraud conspiracy, 20 years in prison for honest services wire fraud conspiracy, 20 years for money laundering conspiracy, and an additional 5 for conspiracy to influence sporting events by bribery. And this is, and double A, I'll let you go right after this because this is the big thing. They got the statement in here from the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of New York. Quote, the defendants deprived the Cleveland Guardians and Major League Baseball of their honest services. They defrauded the online betting platforms that they were placed, and they betrayed America's pastime. Integrity, honesty, and fair play are part of DNA of professional sports. When corruption infiltrates the sport, it brings disgrace not only on the participants, but damages the public trust in an institution that is vital and dear to all of us. That is language that says we are going to make an example out of these two schmucks. Yeah. They are going for blood on this. So you know what? 65 years might sound like a lot. We all thought that what the 3 or 4 years that Mike Vick got for dogfighting was a lot. But again, they were making an example, and they might need to on this one.
Well, it just popped in my head. I'm like, remember when Triv used to always say, like, Jimmy DeMora got 27 years, for something that just wasn't a lot, like, there's actual crime, criminal crime going on. But I mean, the numbers do make sense. I do want to let me read this real quick to kind of summarize things because I kind of forgot about this. This is the same Emmanuel Clase that at one time in his career was banned 80. I forgot about this. Banned 80 games for steroids.
Yeah.
That was right after the Kluber trade. That was right at the beginning of his Guardians tenure. So, man, you want to talk about something not being right upstairs. And we're not going to sit here and do the whole, what's going on in your head conversation that we did with the NBA situation, because that all applies here. We all knew when the NBA stuff dropped, we knew this was coming. We just didn't know the severity. But all three of us and everyone watching
watching our show right now, we all watch Guardians games. We've seen games where Clase came into the game, and a player of his caliber, it made no sense that balls were suddenly just landing to the ground.
But the thing is, though, is that nobody in the moment thought that he was on the take. Everyone just thought he either, lost the grip on the slider, whatever the case may be. I said that they might have to make an example out of these guys, and it has to be a pretty severe one. I think that's dead true.
They're going to have to make an example, and they're going to be, for one reason, and it's not fair, but it's true. You make an example because they're not Aaron Judge, they're not superstars. They're not
even that. It's not even that.
But I think that's part of it.
And this is a bigger picture thing. This is, this seems like, I think this is the third straight week we have had some sort of gambling scandal talk, progressively moving farther up in our show rundown, by the way. Congratulations, you made the A block. The NCAA just tossed 6 players for student athletes for, being on the take and shaving points and messing with prop bets. We're having the NBA guys that you just talked about. We're having now the Major League Baseball stuff. Really, the only major pro league right now that is immune from this is the NFL, and I think it's only going to be a matter of time. The thing is, though, with the NFL, it's harder to kind of mess with a prop bet or something along that. Like, basketball and baseball seem pretty easy to manipulate to me. I understand that, but football seems a little tougher. But we're having this happen over and over again where this is becoming normalized. And if this truly becomes normalized, perception is reality. If the perception is that half the guys are on the take in any sport, in any game, in any deal. I mean, Major League Baseball lost an umpire about a year and a half ago. If they do that, if the public perception is completely on the whole idea that these guys are on the take, everybody goes home. And, we don't do this show. The Cavaliers don't have 41 home dates. The NFL doesn't get billions in TV money. Everyone goes home. And it looks like right now, not to get too political on this, but this, with the FBI press conference on the NBA guys, and now this one being the same district, charging both parties here, it looks like the Justice Department has found a soapbox to get up on and something to kind of beat into the ground here. And so you're going to see them try to go for the maximum penalty, and they have to, because they need to make it clear to anybody thinking about this. And $450,000 is what the bettors made off this. Clase got, quote, a cut. So even if you're assuming that was half, which I don't think even it was that's $225,000. The dude makes $5 million this year.
Yeah,
he threw that all away for $250,000, not $1 million. And they got to make it clear to anybody, if you want to do this for a couple of bucks on the side, if you got a bro who's on hard times and you can make his life a little bit better by, having him hit a couple of, $500 prop bets, whatever, it is not worth it, because you're going to lose your career. And if this sentence does go through, and I don't think they'll get the full 65, but if they were to get the full 65, congratulations, Clase. You're going to be in your late 80s the next time you have a free breath. So, yeah, they need to make it clear that this shit ain't going to fly.
Yeah,
well,
but
you got a final point. I got one, too. You go first.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Double. I just think it's the last thing I'll hammer home, though, and, I talked about it a little bit before, is I get it, Rob. The point has to be addressed that you just can't be doing this. There has to be some integrity, or we don't have sports. With anything, if you don't have integrity in what you're doing, then what's the point of doing it? Or what's the point of me tuning in? Or what's the point of me buying a ticket? And I think ultimately, though, it comes down to we are taking, like you said, some of these things and making them as to be they are the biggest, worst thing you could have done as a crime, while other things are being swept under the rug as a country. And I'm not getting political or anything, but that's just frustrating. When I saw that, like I said, they deserve to be punished for what they did, because it's not right, and it cost people money, because there's as many people that won the money with him people lost money that were betting on him. So that's not right. But also, it's like if they do get the full maximum, 65 years is crazy. And what do I know? I'm not a lawmaker. I'm not making these calls. I just think it's crazy.
Again, I don't think they'll get the full 65 years, but you are right with that. We're just, the reason why we're talking about this in gambling and sports because we're our sports show. But yeah, you are right. Where obviously there are a lot of other issues going on. There's a certain list of names and contact information that hasn't seen the light of day yet. That people are wondering where that particular list of stuff is. We got a lot of fraud happening on the federal level that seems to be okay if not condoned. And then we also, obviously too, we're dealing with a government shutdown and people are having, some trouble getting food. SNAP recipients, they haven't got their cash yet. So yeah, there's a lot bigger things to worry about. But that being said, we're a sports show and
I get it. I get it.
To be a sports show, then these guys got to fucking stop gambling on stuff.
I get it. And I know, and I know that's why we're hammering home on it. But like I said, just something, the human being heart in me just had to come out there and say, these guys deserve to be punished. But if we're really trying to lay down and make sure this is everybody's doing the right thing, then like I said, let's
well, you also got to realize too.
You know what? Eli does make a fair point about that, though. I mean, if you're comparing it to some other criminal, sentencing and how many years that they get in comparison to this, I do get it. I get both sides. I hate to, use a cop out. You're both right. On one hand, this seems excessive, but on the other hand, you do screw with a lot of families' monies. Their businesses, there's a lot at stake here.
We don't have the numbers in front of us, but go through the amount of revenue that just the big four sports leagues, throw out the NCAA for half a second, even though that's not chump change. The revenue that all four big sports leagues brought in, that all goes, that is a lot of money. That is a massive GDP for the cities that they're in. That is we are talking about hundreds, if not thousands of people make their livelihoods off these guys. If it is the players, the media, the guy selling a dog at the, in the concession stand. So yeah, you're talking about a big chunk of the local economy in 30 cities, 40 cities across the country that would be hit hard if this stuff goes away next year.
I am mad about one thing on top of all the stuff about all this, because this is it. First off, when you hear rich people having issues with gambling and, we're trying to, figure out what we're going to spend on food for the week, all of them are pieces of what. So, number one, F them. Number two, I'm thinking back to last year or the 24. I'm thinking back to last year's ALCS. Thinking back to how crappy Clase looked against the Yankees.
And that's on the table now.
We were that close to the freaking World Series, and he's intentionally throwing games for some effing bettors.
Could you imagine if there is an actual connection with that dismal playoff run that Clase had and any gambling?
I don't have to imagine. It's freaking there.
We don't have it on paper yet. We don't have any sort of.
I will be there.
But if that does come down, that would screw Pete Rose. That would be the largest gambling scandal in sports since 1920.
And my final point on this, Rizik, my apologies to interrupt, but my final point on this too is like this. It's okay if Clase was just naturally just lost his skill of being a great closer. We'd still love him for the moments we did have, I tend to believe. But now that we look back,
really, do you love Jose Mesa?
I'm gonna use my cop out segment, and I'm gonna say I was only 3 months old when Jose Mesa blew it, so Papa Moon would probably be more upset than me. And he's probably watching in the other room.
He was a great closer until he wasn't.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying. We can at least have more of a reason to be like, but it was natural instead of you just going out there and blowing it. That's on purpose. Well,
yeah, we're used to guys just randomly sucking. Yeah,
Yeah.
Talk about the Cleveland Browns for 20 minutes. Yeah, come on.
I mean, Rob, you said it perfectly last week. They they're honestly terrible. I mean, so
Two words.
They just are.
Two words. Come on.
They're not really doing it for any sort of extra profit. They're just they're just there. They're and I don't know if it's like really with the Browns right now. I think fans might be a little bit more at ease if they found out that they were getting paid to lose games. I think that would explain a whole lot of stuff. Right now, I think it is what it is. But yeah, we'll see what happens with this Clase with Ortiz. Obviously now. This is the Justice Department, and that's the other thing too. Is like this isn't just a Trump DOJ thing. This isn't specific to one thing, or one person, or one president. This is, law enforcement when they have a case, a public case like this, and the NBA guys are the same thing, and they can show the world that they're doing their jobs, and they can show that they're tough on crime with names you recognize, doing things you recognize. They will go out in front of the public. Again, that's how Mike Vick happened. Like it was good politics to throw the book at Michael Vick.
And it's going to take a while too for all of this to play out. Like this is not going to be something that's solved today, this year. May not even be solved next year too. Like
I wouldn't be shocked if we get a complete resolution to this while we're talking about the labor stoppage this time next year. That's how long. I mean, we're talking federal stuff, so. Yeah, these guys, they're never really known for their expediency. So we will see. But the Guardians will also keep you posted. They haven't really signed anybody. They did part ways with John Means, the oft-injured starter from Baltimore. He never actually pitched for the Guardians. Right. He was one of those rehab guys like a Matthew Boyd a couple years ago. Never got. I think the plan is to have him just throw a couple of bullshit outings the last week or two of the season when they were out of it. They weren't out of it, so they couldn't pitch.
Right.
So he's a free agent. They parted ways with a few other guys. We'll see what happens with free agency and this team. I know a big-time Japanese third baseman just posted. I don't know if the Guardians are going to be connected to him at all. I would probably say no, but we'll see. That was the Cleveland Browns. That was the Cleveland Guardians. I wish we had better news to report on either one of those fronts. But maybe we'll try to get some happy stuff going. We'll talk some, playoffs or pain coming up next segment. We got the rest of the NFL really to kind of talk about in the docket of games. And I know we're on a little bit early right now. So, we're actually going to be talking about the 1 o'clock games and the 4 o'clock games that are kind of mid-swing right now. And we'll get into that and have some news and notes and figure out what the fuck we've learned this week and get Eli going to his musical show. So, yes, this is the main event on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. AA Anthony Alford, Eli Moon. I am Rob Rozycki. We'll be back. event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. Thanks for sticking through the break. I am Rob Rozycki. We have Eli Moon, AA Anthony Alford, and we have a whole lot of NFL action that was not the Browns to talk about, and that means probably some of it will actually be some good football we can talk about. We had a couple of season-saving wins, I think, earlier today with the Texans overtaking the Jaguars. They've been on the brink, but it looks like Davis Mills has brought them back from the dead for at least 1 week. Baltimore continuing on their revenge tour, beating Minnesota 27-19. And then a lot of other big games happening too. Miami with a shocker today too, 30-13 over the Buffalo Bills, a team that I think everyone kind of thought was a little bit better than they actually are. And of course, Baker going down to New England. They go down to Tampa Bay 23-28 over New England. A lot of big games today. And I guess the easiest way to kind of surmise this whole situation, we have a brand new edition of Playoffs or Pain. And that would be Eli Moon's department. Yeah, take it away, Mr. Moon.
Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate you, my friend. And yes, fellas, Rob, AA, we broke down the AFC last week. And we'll see how that stands as we check in later on in the year for the Playoffs Are Pain. And for those tuning in at home or wherever you may be, I'm going to break down the rules here real quickly as we get into our NFC edition of Playoffs Are Pain. Playoffs are pain. And I'm not talking about just making the playoffs, okay? I'm talking about, can you win your first round playoff game and be one of the last 4 NFC teams standing, or will you experience pain? We're going to go over some teams that right now may look record-wise like they are strolling into the playoffs in the Final Four, but maybe otherwise thought. And we're going to get into some teams that might need some help in figuring it out along the way, but we'll also break them down as well. 6 teams. I'm going to kick it over to AA and Rob during these 6-team breakdowns, and we'll determine playoffs or pain. All right, we'll break it down here first. We'll start with the Seattle Seahawks, who are 6-2. 3-2 in conference, 1-1 in division. They have won 3 in a row, and fellas, it looks like they're on their way to their 4th win in a row as they are up at home over the Arizona Cardinals, 38-7 at half. We'll start with Rob Rozycki this time, since I started with AA with the AFC. Rob, for the Seattle Seahawks, is it playoffs or pain?
The NFC just in general is kind of hard to really just gauge in general. Sam Darnold, obviously, I think he's now doing it for the second team. You know, everyone thought it was maybe a mirage up in Minnesota. Now he's doing it for Seattle. Jackson Smith and Jigba looks like he is he might be the best Ohio receiver, state receiver out of the bunch. Who knows? But I'm going to have to say pain. It's kind of like I think the Colts and the Seahawks are kind of in the same category right now with their quarterbacks. Yeah, you're doing well. Yeah, you've had a pretty good run of things, but can you really do it when you want to get down to one of those Final 4 spots or Final 2 or Final 1? And right now, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't even think they're going to win the division. I think Staddy right behind them with the Rams. They're probably the team to beat in the NFC West, even though they are tied up right now. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with pain.
Okay. Rob chooses pain. AA. What say you?
Boy, this is why this exercise is really tough, because you could easily argue either way. But I've gathered, again, JSN is phenomenal. Him and Jonathan Taylor are having elite level seasons. If you're not talking about the quarterback position, I'm gonna say pain, even though they're having a great season. But this is what this segment is: can you win that first? Can you win that first game? And I think Rob brings up a great point. You look at some of these, what I would deem pre-owned quarterbacks, and I wonder, the thing that concerns me about Sam Darnold, and we were on the air last week when Sam Darnold threw 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I got fantasy 4 touchdowns in the first half. Yeah.
Yeah, we were on the air during that game, and stuff like that is special. The issue, we watched it last year with Minnesota. That last game, when you need to get over Detroit, the defense came at Sam Darnold hard, and then in the playoffs, Sam Darnold got exposed again. And so I just worry, if you get Philadelphia at full strength defensively in the playoffs, can Sam Darnold overcome film? Basically, that's what I'm asking. Can he overcome film? Can he overcome some of those deficiencies? Because here's the thing. Seattle they're the Pacific Northwest, obviously. They're having a type of season where they're doing great work. But if you're not really paying attention to Seattle, the eye could be off the ball a little bit. That's not the case in the playoffs. You're going to have full attention on a team like the Seahawks. And I don't know. Sam Darnold hasn't proven to me that he could do it in clutch games in the playoffs when he is required to drive the team down the field and win the game on a game-winning drive. So for right now, I'm going to have to say pain. But I'm loving what Seattle is doing with their regular season so far.
By the way,
good.
NFC West, only division in football where every team has a positive point differential. I don't know if that means anything, but
the Arizona part of that will change.
And not to pull the curtain back just a tad, but we will talk a little bit more about the NFC West here later on in the segment. Now, for the Seattle Seahawks, gentlemen, I'm going to say playoffs because I don't think this is a fluke. In fact, Sam Darnold is not seeing ghosts anymore. He has done this with the second team in a row, like Rob said, with Minnesota and now with Seattle. And yes, he did fall short when it came playoff time, but I do believe he learned from that. And I think having weapons around him with Jackson Smith and Jigba, having a good running back room with Charbonnet, with Walker, having options at tight end with the young, you have A.J. Barner, you have Elijah Arroyo. You have options there for Seattle. And it kind of feels like the 12th man is kind of starting to come back again here in the last few weeks or so for Seattle. I think it's going to be interesting, and I think they at least win one playoff game. So I'm going to say playoffs for the Seattle Seahawks.
I hope you're right. I love watching Seattle play football, and I'm actually rooting for Sam Darnold. So I hope you're right. Just again, for the purpose of this exercise, I need to see it from Sam Darnold in the playoffs. I got to see it.
Understood. All right. We'll move to team number 2, shall we? And we're going to go to the NFC North with the leading Green Bay Packers, who are 5-2-1, 3-1-1 in conference, 1-0 in the division play, and they lost their last game. They are playing tomorrow night against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. Now,
I hope you guys can watch that game.
I was just about to say, now, for some of us, we might not be able to watch it. But hopefully this is going to be...
Hey, I'm getting my $20 credit from YouTube TV this week.
Okay, heck yeah. So, it's like, obviously this is going to be a big eye test for a lot of people to talk about for Green Bay. Double A, we'll start with you. For the Green Bay Packers, is this playoffs or pain?
Pain. No hesitation for me, pain.
Why though?
Well, I don't know if their guys can stay healthy. The Green Bay Packers have what I call a Cleveland Cavaliers problem in the playoffs in staying healthy. Actually, throughout the regular season, too. Like, do you have the same receiving core? Which receiving core are you going to have going into the playoffs? Who's going to be available? Now, let's be fair. Green Bay does, and under Jordan Love, does have playoff success. I was at Northfield Park at the casino when they demolished the Dallas Cowboys. And when you demolish the Dallas Cowboys, you earn your way on the Netflix documentary talking about how that could be the worst loss in franchise history. So that is I can't believe Garrett said that. I can't believe you said that. But that is true. I need to see week in and week out a healthy Green Bay Packers team. And that's the part that concerns me really more than any other team's health with Green Bay. They're in a tough division, so at least with Green Bay, they'll be battle-tested. The NFC North will always deliver from that standpoint. Hopefully the NFC West does too. But yeah, I think with the playoffs, I just don't trust that they're going to have a healthy team rolling into the playoffs because they don't have a healthy team, a healthy receiving core week in and week out with Green Bay. So I'm going to go with Payne.
Okay. Now, Double A, I'll take it here next. And I'll tell you this. I agree with you. I'm going to choose Payne as well. But I'm going to choose Payne because I think it just comes down to, we kind of touched on it here when we talk about the Packers. Jordan Love. And I'm just not sure on Jordan Love, right? Some weeks he looks like he's the next big thing. And I see highlights all over Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. And, he's the next Green Bay superstar at quarterback. They've had Favre, then they had Rodgers, now is it Love? And I just don't know if I buy into the Jordan Love hype. Now, on a fantasy football, respect, I have traded him probably 2-3 times in our fantasy football league that we both play in with Rozycki as well. Okay, right? But that tells you something. That obviously I didn't like him on a fantasy football level. So now watching him, I'm just not a fan. I don't think he has that killer instinct when it comes down to winning these football games. We talk about Dallas. We talked about the game earlier this year when Micah Parsons came back to Dallas, and they had a chance to win that game, and it turns into a shootout. I get he did score a lot, but when it came down to winning the game, he didn't do that. And it's like if you can't do that against Dallas, who is not a team that is more than likely, they're not making the playoffs more than likely. I mean, I know they made some moves at the deadline. That's just Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones.
Yeah, you're right. They're not getting in.
Yeah, Green Bay is just. I think they have a good quarterback, but as far as when it gets to the playoffs, I think we should be talking about Jordan Love as much as we are talking about Sam Darnold and these guys that can't get over the hump in the first round. Because I get it. He's won a playoff game. But let's not forget how great that Green Bay defense has been the last 2 years. I'm talking about Jordan Love going out and dominating a playoff game and winning. And I don't know if he can do that.
Well, and one other thing, too, about the Packers. I think we have our standards of playoff for Payne. If we're doing this show in Green Bay, their standard of playoff for Payne is can this Jordan Love kid get us to the Super Bowl? Because the previous 2 quarterbacks did. Brett Favre, Super Bowl W. Aaron Rodgers, Lombardi Trophy. So literally for Green Bay, you got to get one. Got to get one with Jordan Love. So for them, until that happens, it will be Payne. But as far as baby steps, they got to at least – for them, they got to at least get to the NFC Championship if they want to have any chance of those goals happening.
Right, exactly. And it's like, we talk about the Packers, it's like they've had a formula. So it's like if this formula doesn't work, it really could disrupt, in the future how they view things, because that's how they've done it. Favre, then they drafted Rodgers, put him behind him, and then they did the same thing with Rodgers and Love. And so if it doesn't work out, it would not tend to make a whole lot of sense to the Packers front office, and I think you can see a lot of changes. So that'll be interesting. Hey, Rob.
Hi.
So we're gonna kick it. Hey, man. So we're gonna kick it to you. We are still talking about a team that is leading the NFC North, and that is the Green Bay Packers. As I mentioned here, introducing them 5-2-1, 3-1-1 in conference, 1-0 in division. Lost their last game. Big eye test tomorrow at home against Philly on Monday Night Football. What are your thoughts? Playoffs are Payne for the Green Bay Packers.
I think the Packers are going to be playoffs for sure. I see them as a Final Four team. I think there's going to be a couple teams that come out of that division as the Final Four. But it looks like Jordan Love's a real thing. I know Micah Parsons, he is taking a little bit of time to kind of get acclimated to Green Bay. But I got a feeling that defense is going to tighten up big time. And they're already pretty good. They're going to tighten up big time by the end of the season. And, yeah, we'll see what happens against Philadelphia today, or tomorrow, rather. I don't know if that is a must-win, hey, you're in the playoffs or not for me, because Philadelphia is a pretty good team. But I think we're going to see what the Packers do look like on national TV, on a standalone game against the defending Super Bowl champs. So, I think we'll know a lot more tomorrow. But if I had to guess right now, I'd say playoffs for the Packers. And
it's funny you mentioned that because I just got done saying that I don't know if Jordan Love is the real deal. Can he single-handedly – if it comes down to it, if this defense can't stand up against some of these offenses in the NFC, especially this year, can Jordan Love win a playoff game for the Green Bay Packers? I know they won one last year, but like I mentioned, that defense also played a huge part. If it turns into a shootout like it does against Dallas earlier this year, is he going to be able to win those types of games? or tie.
Yeah, I mean,
Can't tie.
he's got a first round receiver out there. He's got a pretty good running back behind him. So I think he's pretty good. He's in a pretty good spot. So the problem is with the money they're paying him, even if he can't be that guy, ask Miami or Cleveland. If he's not that guy, he's still on the team for a while. So yeah, we'll see. The Packers are kind of stuck with him either way, but
that's fair.
Tomorrow will be a pretty good litmus test for sure.
All right, let's stay in the NFC North, fellas. We're gonna go to the Chicago Bears. The Bears, who are 6-3, 4-2 in conference, 0-2 in division. They have won their last 2 games, fellas. Now, when you look at the Bears, this is a team that if you tried to catch them earlier today, well, you couldn't. They didn't play. They did play 24-20 against the New York Giants. My apologies. 1 o'clock game slipped underneath me. They did go to 6-3 here. Chicago Bears, I've seen a few of their games this year. Caleb Williams, I have my own opinions, but I want to ask you, Double A, is this playoffs or pain?
Oh, man. Caleb is interesting. For them, man, that's tough. The Bears are really tough. They really are. But I like what Ben Johnson's doing. You know what? I'm going to say playoffs. I like what Ben Johnson's doing. I like what he's doing with this offense. You already know that there's some good things happening. And Caleb Williams, you're seeing his improvement. You're seeing the Bears kind of transition too with Caleb Williams in his development. So we have some shenanigans going on outside our studios.
Double A, I'm not too far from you. We can make this a remote both at your house.
Dude, no. You're on the west side. Don't say that. No.
I'm in Menor. There ain't shit going on here. So
no, I was just making sure nothing's happening here in Bedford. Just making sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to say playoffs. I think Caleb Williams. You're seeing big playability from Caleb Williams like we saw at USC. And it's not leading to a ton of turnovers either. So he's playing clean football. And I think compared to the other quarterbacks that we have mentioned, good quarterbacks that we have mentioned in this segment so far, I think Caleb Williams, he is actually a needle mover. If you cut down on the turnovers, because he has big playability that Sam Darnold, compared to Sam Darnold, compared to even Jordan Love, Caleb Williams is legitimately a difference maker in a football game. So I'm going to say playoffs.
All right. Rozycki, playoffs or pain for Chicago?
Nope, pain. No, because you just take a look at a broad brush look at them. Baltimore, Detroit, and Minnesota. Those are the 3 games they lost. And really, you can make the case that Detroit and Baltimore are in the playoff race. Minnesota is probably outside looking at. The wins, though, Dallas, Vegas, the Commanders, New Orleans, Cincinnati, and today, you just mentioned it, the Giants. They were basically on bye. They really haven't beat anybody yet. The best team they beat was the Jaden Daniels-less, without Marcus Mariota-led Commanders. So at this rate, they're going to have to beat somebody who's a little bit on a higher level for me to be truly convinced. They're doing well. Obviously, Ben Johnson, the new head coach out there, the former Detroit OC, he's working pretty well with Caleb Williams now. It looks like they actually do have an offense, and it is a properly coached football team. But to crack that top 4 right now into the NFC, I don't think they're there yet. And again, I mean, they could convince me. They got Minnesota coming up next. They got Pittsburgh after that, and I think Philadelphia. So if they want to have a chance to get a notable win or two, they got a 3-game stretch to kind of do it. You got a division rival and 2 pretty good teams in there. So this will have to be the opportunity for Caleb to show his development and to see if he can be that guy when a defense collapses you down on the running game and you have to win it, and you are playing one-dimensional, and they are pinning their ears back and rushing 6. That'll be, a couple of those defenses will be a pretty good test for Caleb Williams to see if he can do just that in the NFL.
And I'll say this real quick before you go, Eli. I hate to compliment our rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers, our paper rival. They ain't our rivals. They kick our ass every year. But look, Daniel Jones does not look the same since the Steelers game. Hasn't looked the same. So,
Right.
Caleb Williams is going to get that test. Can he elevate his game against a defense like the Steelers?
Well, we mentioned the Steelers here real quick. I know there's a lot of my friends in Pittsburgh, and if you're in the Western Pennsylvania area listening to us, you're upset with Mike Tomlin. I get it. 9-7 every year, 9-8 every year. Always seems like it's just this, arduous. Okay, fait accompli. It ain't gonna happen. I'm going to tell you this. I turned on the TV today to watch my local game. My local game was the Jets and the Browns. I know you're complaining about 8 and 9 every year. It could be a whole lot worse. It's all about perspective. Calm down. It's not that bad. Just breathe in, breathe out. If you're a football fan and you think your team is doing poorly, watch a couple of the games from the Cleveland Browns, and that will be the slump buster you need to walk away feeling better about yourself. Just calm down. Everybody's doing just fine.
Hey, Rozycki, I don't know if you got the memo, but last week was the AFC playoffs are paying with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't want to talk about that team more than I have to, brother. I don't want to talk about them more than I have to. No, I love you. And I get what you're saying. All right. But I'll be real quick with Chicago just for the sake of time. I don't believe in Caleb Williams. I'm kind of more with Rozycki. I just don't believe that he is a franchise quarterback. He can have some big games against average or below average teams, but I think when it comes down to the elite teams, and I think right now in the NFC, as we're getting through some of these teams, you're seeing that there are a lot of teams. It's hard to narrow it down who's going to make it to that Final Four. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC this year, and when I compared a lot of the quarterbacks that some of these teams we'll talk about and have talked about, I don't know if Caleb Williams, if I believe he's better than a lot of if really any of these quarterbacks at that level. So I say paying for the Chicago Bears. With that being said, I'm going to move over to one of our favorite quarterbacks, and if not our favorite quarterback in Browns history, now playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, NFC South, leading that division. They are 6-3, 4-2 in conference, 2-0 in the division. They lost, as Rob so eloquently discussed at the beginning of this segment today, to the New England Patriots, 28-23. We talked about the Patriots last week in the AFC and Drake May. Today we'll talk about Baker Mayfield. I kind of lost count. I believe I went to AA last. I take it back. I went to Rozycki last. Did I go to whatever? We're gonna go to AA here. And AA, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, are they playoffs or are they paying?
Paying for what the purpose of this segment is.
Wow.
And honestly, and that is for me, you're saying when Tampa Bay has been in the divisional round, like with Baker Mayfield, they've been there. So they're paying. If they don't make the NFC Championship game, that's paying for them. They got bigger expectations than that. Sure, can they win a playoff game? Sure. And that's going to be key. Can they get past the traditional NFC South threshold of 9-7 or 9-8 or 10-7? Sure. And they can win the game. For them, I think bigger when I think of Baker Mayfield. I know, very hypocritical considering what I'm wearing, but I think he's that good. I think the team is that good. That I do think bigger. I have bigger expectations for Tampa Bay than I would even with Chicago. So I think, for them, I need to see it. I think it's going to depend on the matchup. Again, I get concerned with some of their injury issues. Are they going to get Bucky Irvin back at any point? We hope. And then if he comes back, then he'll need an additional game or two to really get his legs on him again. Because Tampa, in my opinion, offensively has not looked the same since he's went down. So I think Tampa's the one team everybody's rooting for. But I'm going to say Payne because there's going to be some expectations they might fall short of, and it's their own expectations that they should have for their football team.
Well, they were my
Right.
Super Bowl pick to start the year out of
Yep.
the NFC. And they are beat up. You talked about a little bit with Bucky Irving. You got one Hall of Fame track receiver, one All-Pro, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They haven't played in weeks. Evans he's on the IR right now. He's done for a while. Bucky Irving's out. They're missing their right guard. A couple of other offensive linemen are hurt. Yeah, they are probably as beat up as an offense as anybody in the league right now. And if they can get healthy, and I know that's a big if right now, but I haven't seen anything besides the injuries out of Tampa Bay that makes me want to deviate from my Super Bowl pick. So I'm going to have to go with playoffs for Tampa Bay. As long as Baker's in there, as long as he has somebody to throw the ball to, I'm going to give them a fighting chance here. I can see them being a Final Four team pretty easily.
I'm going to also say playoffs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, I'm a big Baker Mayfield fan. I was obviously distraught when he got traded from the Browns. And you know, the Browns moved on from him. But I just think he's a gamer. I mean, that's just what it is. He's always been a gamer. That's why we loved him in Cleveland. You know, we loved the chance that, hey, if we give Baker the ball, he may throw an interception, but he's going to sling that football, and we are going to have a chance. He's not going to Dylan Gabriel this and throw it backwards. He's going to sling the football. And that's why I'm bought in. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Rob, I know you picked them as your Super Bowl, NFC team here, going to the Super Bowl. But I truly, truly believe that they still are a team that gets to the NFC Championship. I think Baker is having a great year, considering everything that's been thrown his way. We already touched on it, the injuries and everything like that. But it's finally like that year where it doesn't matter what's happening. Baker is just doing it. I mean, we kind of saw him do that a little bit in Cleveland. I know we had Jarvis and Nick Chubb, but we did have some guys that, like, if they weren't in Cleveland and we didn't love them, we wouldn't be talking about Hollywood Higgins and some of these guys, all due respect. But they aren't some of the guys that he's playing with in Tampa Bay that he's lost, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He's playing with Tez Johnson, Cameron Johnson, these types of guys that are good, but they're young guys that haven't really got into the league yet, or experienced, a full season league rather. So, but I'm bought in with Tampa Bay. I'm bought in with Baker. Playoffs. That's what I say.
The only thing I'll say about Tampa, I know Baker is very lovable. I get all that. Believe me, I get all that. If we were doing this from the standpoint of whose resumes do you like, I'm looking at this Tampa schedule to what they have played so far. Mm-hmm. I don't see a ton of impressive wins. I mean, the only impressive win, I would maybe say San Francisco. I could say San Francisco, but even the Niners, they weren't at full strength. They've lost to Detroit. They've lost, or they beat Seattle. That's the one I will give you. But they lost to Philadelphia. They lost to Detroit. They've lost to Atlanta. Or no, they beat Atlanta. But as far as impressive wins, I don't see a ton there. And even today, like, you're at home against New England. It's raining. I heard Tony Romo talking about, Drake May struggled a little bit because Drake May hasn't played in the rain all year. And you can see clips of Drake May kind of underthrowing balls and stuff. But New England had full control of this game, all day. That's my concern with Tampa Bay is just they're really good. I need to see them get to that break through. I have to see it. And Baker has to do it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll find out here real soon. I have two more teams for you, fellas. You've been great so far, and thank you to everybody tuning in. Share your comments wherever you're tuning in at, and tell us if we're right or wrong, because we love hearing that. Let's go to a team in the NFC North. I'm going to revisit them one more time, fellas, because this is a team that we are talking about windows, then I don't think we're talking about many other teams than the Detroit Lions, who are 5-3. Now, right now, they are in action against the Washington Commanders, 32-16. The Lions lead midway through the third quarter. They are 5-3 right now, so we'll just keep it where the record is currently. 2-2 in conference, 1-2 in division. They lost their last game, looking as if they may make their way back to the winning streak of things, or, the winning side of things, rather. So I'll start with Rob. Rob, Detroit Lions, playoffs or pain?
I'm going to put them in the playoffs at this rate. That's just crazy. The crazy thing about the NFC right now is, yeah, we're talking about the Lions with as impressive as they've looked at times. They're the third place team in that division.
Right.
Chicago and Green Bay are currently sitting ahead of them. Yeah, they are tuning up Washington right now and Marcus Mariota. For those of you who aren't watching the game, Mr. Dan Campbell has debuted a new set of glasses. So he is now the intellectual meathead coach of the Detroit.
Still not good enough to tell cheer.
Hey, a lot of teams were making fun of him when he was hired. I remember that for sure. I remember Miami especially because I think he was the interim guy for a minute or two when they fired a head coach down there.
Right.
Yeah, they called him Man Campbell down there for a long time. But no, the window I think that everybody was afraid about closing was with the coordinators. And, we talked about both of them indirectly today. Ben Johnson went to Chicago and Aaron Glenn went to the New York Jets. He got the win today. Everyone kind of thought that maybe a reset on the coaching staff might be a reset on the field a little bit, but they really haven't, lost really any sort of way on that. Yeah, they had a kind of a weird loss against Minnesota early in this last week. And, Green Bay, too, obviously to start the season out. So, I mean, they've lost to some pretty decent teams. You throw Kansas City in there, too. They're pretty good. And I honestly think, and we watched a little bit of that game while we were doing the show, that it seemed like it was more of a Detroit versus Kansas City and the Stripes. So, yeah, it is what it is. Kansas City, we got to let them win. I understand. But, Jared Goff there's really no sort of interruption with that Lions team right now. I mean, they're performing just how they did all of last year. We got to see, is that defense going to hold up? That was a big question last year. They did address it big time in the draft this year and through free agency. So far, so good. But, to Eli's point, are you going to be able to kind of hold up against the Philadelphias of the world, the big primetime teams? We'll be able to find that out because the Lions are actually on Sunday Night Football in a couple weeks against those Eagles. Mm-hmm. So that'll be a big game to worry about. But, yeah, right now I don't see any sort of reason to think that they're not going to be in the playoffs, that they're not going to win at least a game or two, and they won't be vying for an NFC title.
Double A.
I'm going to say playoffs. I mean, these last 2 years, the Lions have played 2 bad games. And that was last year, the playoffs against the Commanders, where they pretty much got blitzed their way out of the playoffs. And then the season opener against the Green Bay Packers. Micah Parsons' debut with the Packers. The week of the game. So you didn't even have time to really game plan against Parsons. Detroit, honestly, for me, Detroit and Philadelphia are 2 teams legitimately from the NFC, in my opinion, that's Super Bowl or bust. And Detroit's doing everything you want a Super Bowl contending team to do. Really good backfield. The receivers, every one of their receivers are threats. Every one of them are threats right now. The quarterback is playing good football. I know there are times with Jared Goff, he has moments where it's like, 2 turnovers in a row. But I watched Josh Allen struggle today. So, they'll be, things are going to be fine. And then Detroit defensively, they're coming along. They can match up against other teams and compete and win. So it's crazy that they're third in the NFC North. But I think Detroit and Philadelphia are the 2 best teams in the conference. And I have no reason other than injury to not believe that they can go to the Super Bowl. They just played. They ran into a bad matchup last year with the Commanders, and they had to cram against Micah Parsons. Other than that, I think Detroit's good. Playoffs, they'll be fine.
I will also say playoffs for the Detroit Lions. It is shocking, like Rob and Double have mentioned. 5-3, third in the division. That'll change, though. I do believe, and I think this is a team that could maybe, get one of those top seeds. We'll see how it shakes out. But I do believe, yes, they're going to try to make what what they believe is right, and that's get into the Super Bowl. We'll see if they get all the way there, but I do think they're going to make a lot of noise in the NFC, get past the first round. We'll see if they jump to that NFC Championship and claim it. But
they got to play Christmas and Thanksgiving this year too. That's a bummer.
Dang. But at least if they win, they get that turkey leg.
At least they do Thanksgiving every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got Green Bay on Thanksgiving, and then the following week they still play on Thursday against Dallas on Thursday night.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's a tough stretch. And we'll see how Detroit does, guys. I have one more team, and it's an interesting one. Now, you would probably imagine if I went back to the NFC West, I'd go to the team that's currently winning by 14 right now, and that'd be the Rams, who are up 28-14 over this team. However, I want to talk about the team that's losing because they are in a position to still make the playoffs and maybe make a run. And that is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the San Francisco 49ers down 28-14, as I mentioned, at halftime to at the end of the third quarter, my apologies, to the Los Angeles Rams. They are 6-3, 6-1 in conference, 3-0 in division. They won their last game. May not get this one done, but we'll see. I'm going to go to Rob Rozycki because I believe at one point I doubled up with AA. So I'm going to start with Rob here, and we're going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. Rob, playoffs or pain?
I'll say this first. I think Kyle Shanahan almost every year should probably get consideration for the coach of the year, and this year's no different. We talked about Tampa Bay and their injuries. San Francisco, they make Tampa Bay look healthy right now. Obviously, no Brock Purdy, no Brandon Ayuk, a plethora of guys on the defense. Nick Bosa on the IR, Fred Warner. There's a lot of talent sitting on their injury report right now. And again, starting quarterback ain't around. And we'll see what happens with Purdy. I believe it's still a turf toe thing. That's been kind of the weird thing, is that we kind of thought he was going to be back a couple of weeks ago, and it's just been kind of this Kyler Murray-esque fog around his injury status. But I think Shanahan's doing good enough to get these guys in. I think they'll be a wild card team in the NFC for sure. But I don't see, with a backup quarterback, with half of your defense pretty much on IR, and a couple of big key position players too on offense, I don't know if that's going to happen. Even though, and this is the irony of ironies, the one guy on that team who is always hurt, Christian McCaffrey, is the only one who's not hurt. And that's a little amazing. But I guess as long as he's on 2 feet, they'll have at least a chance to win games. But I think when, we start talking about, the era, the point in time of the season that we're talking about here, getting against these good teams and against these good offenses and defenses that can make you one-dimensional. What's it going to be when Mac Jones has to throw the ball 30 times a game, 35 times a game?
Right.
I don't think that's going to be a good thing. So,
and I'm gonna say pain for actually the reasons that Rob just stated, and I think the reasons that Rob just stated is the reason why they're not going to make the playoffs. And I think, remember, as we get into the second half of the season, more divisional games. So there's going to be some of these teams that kind of separate themselves, and I can see
what's happening now with the Rams and the Niners. Yeah,
exactly. And I can see, that's a great point. And I can see the Niners, unfortunately, because they're not all good and ready to go. And here's the other factor too: CMC is having a phenomenal season. But when you're down, you can't run the ball. So if the Seahawks take off, if the Rams take off, if some of these other teams start to take off, you find yourself in a wild card situation. And, even if Brock Purdy is cleared to play, and with that turf toe injury, how good is he going to be health-wise to compete, not even counting conditioning? Because with that injury, you can't even really stay in shape. You can't move. You can't move.
You can play Madden. That's about it. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say deep pain. I'm gonna say extreme pain. I'm gonna say this Niners team will not make the playoffs.
And I agree with both of you. I mean, and it takes a lot for me to agree with both of you at the same time, but I agree with both of you. San Francisco 49ers, pain. And it pains me because I am a fan. not necessarily like root for them, but like in the NFC, and I rock with the Niners. I like, I've always liked the way they've been constructed. A hard-nosed defense, cool like players they've had on the team. So I've always rooted for them a little bit here and there, but I just don't think they get it done. You guys already kind of touched on it, the injuries. And I just think, with Mac Jones at quarterback, as much as he's done a good job stepping in and doing his thing, I think it's going to be a lot to overcome. Kittle seems like he's starting to get on, on that side of tight end, just wear and tear on the body. Yeah, and wear and tear on the body. And it's so I choose Payne for the San Francisco 49ers. And I appreciate you, gentlemen, for allowing me to break down the NFC this week. And this was Eli Moon's Playoffs or Payne NFC edition. Rob? Back to you.
I think we need to get some video for that, some imaging or something like that. Yes, this is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I am Rob Rozycki. We got Anthony Alford, the man they call Moon, Eli Moon. And I think it's about time to take a break, unless Double A, you look like you got something to say real quick.
I don't have nothing. I'm about to fire up this coffee during this break.
Yeah, I need to go grab more Sprite, so that's going to have to happen too. But yes, we got some news and notes to go over. We also have what we learned today, and yes, a packed news and notes segment. So a lot of bullshit going on in the world of sports. We'll go through that. We'll also, again, talk about what we've learned. This is the main event on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. Rob Rozycki, Eli Moon, Anthony Alford. We'll be back.
Mendoza in trouble. It's out. Touchdown! Wow! Omar Cooper! Unbelievable! Give him the Heisman Trophy now.
This is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. We got Double A Anthony Alford, Eli Moon. I am Rob Rozycki, and that was Fox College football coverage on a Big Noon Sunday. And that voice you heard was Gus Johnson with a very understated call for the game-winning touchdown that the Hoosiers scored over Penn State to keep their undefeated season alive. Gentlemen, I know we like Gus Johnson. He's been a dude. Did he go a little too far there?
Yeah. And I love Gus. This is fun. We got two Elis. Oh no. We can't get him on mic.
No, I'm back.
Okay, you're good. Okay, cool.
I never thought I'd have two of me, but that was the first time I've ever had two of me in the same spot. That was crazy.
Yeah. Gus, that whole final drive, that was, in case you didn't know, because it's obviously about to play on the field. Indiana over Penn State. Indiana, we would assume on the college football playoff standing, they're going to keep their 2 ranking, or no, this is SEC country, so maybe they dropped to 3. But they won the game. They're still undefeated. But listen, I love Gus. It felt forced to me. The final call on that entire final drive.
It felt like, to me, it was like an 8-year-old kid who had a chance to go see a football game live for the first time, and it ended like that. And he was verbally reacting to it. Like, I like energy. I like Gus Johnson, but there is an element of act like you have been there before. We don't. How many Al Michaels calls have you gotten going through the roof like that? How many Vin Scully calls? And name any person who has 30, 40 years in the business. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Gus's bosses were kind of talking to him about that one maybe after the game. Maybe I don't know. They got to worry about Portnoy, but yeah,
they loved it because they posted it. They loved it. They loved the brand, but it's nuts. I don't know.
Yeah, act like you've been there before, guys.
Yeah, not a fan, but I love Gus Johnson's calls, and I know we touched on that, but it's like it just, it was kind of ridiculous, and it's like that was like I get like Penn State. Is there something all in my face? Double A.
Dude, you sound like you're an 8-bit right now. Your connection.
Yeah, you're a bit right.
Just a bit. Oh no, is he freeze framing us on purpose? Oh, Rob.
I think is he?
See,
I'm
here's
trying to
the
see if the
problem.
move.
Hold
if
up.
the light behind him.
No. Here's the problem. He has so much facial hair that I don't know. Is like he's Sami Zayn like that. I don't know. Did he just text us, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay.
It keeps saying that you won't let him in because of significant memory.
Oh, my dude's gonna have to restart his computer because that's what happened with my Open. My Open, I couldn't see the video. Premiere Pro wouldn't let me see the video.
Are you guys playing a prank on me?
Huh?
Are you guys playing a prank on me?
No. Well, Eli, what's your thoughts on Gus Johnson? Say it again.
I just think the call was over the top for a middle of the season game.
Yeah, you're going to have to restart your computer.
You got to restart your computer, man. I'm sorry.
We'll see you soon.
I'm sorry. We'll do a show
so
together in the studio again at some point.
Yeah, we need to hook that up at some point. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, we can talk a little bit more about Gus Johnson. I don't think there's that much more to really kind of grind on here. But, yeah,
there's nothing more
down here, big guy. But while Moon is currently getting his poop together, we got a little news and notes to kind of go over here to finish out the experience this week. We already talked about the 2 pitchers who are now facing 65 years in prison. I don't think we need to hit that one again. Another big story that hit earlier this week was like midway through. This is from the White House, so I'm sure everyone's going to be thrilled with that one. It was passed to President Trump, about the new. I don't know how it came up in conversation about the new Washington Commanders football stadium. And either Trump said that he wants it to be named after him, or he said he reaffirmed an idea that would be also a pretty good move. And not for nothing, he was at the Commanders and Lions game that's happening right now, actually. And there's a lot of internet footage of booing and middle fingers and cursing out the current president of the United States. I don't know where we want to start with this, but we were doing this crap about 10 years ago when Kaepernick and all, everything got uber political, the hands up, don't shoot, all that kind of stuff. And I remember people saying that you wanted to keep the politics out of sports. And I get that. Sports is its own thing. It's its own, just kind of safe haven from the real world. And getting your political crap while you're trying to watch a game, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, it's annoying. I get that. But that being said, I think politics needs to stay out of sports. If you don't want us to get political, then maybe you shouldn't use it as a political punching bag or a political tool to either distract from the fact that the Epstein list isn't out, the fact that the government's not shut down or still shut down, the fact that we have people on SNAP and people on Medicaid that are wondering where those benefits are going to come at next. And you are worried about what the branding of the Washington Commanders football field is going to be. If you want the athletes to stay out of your shit, Mr. Trump, then you stay out of the athletes. I don't think that's a really, really crazy thing to ask.
Well, it's not a crazy ask, but the thing is, the current president of the United States is a huge sports fan. And, not just
with Obama.
What was that, Rob?
So was Obama.
Right.
George Bush owned the Rangers.
And Bush owned the Rangers. Man, Joe Biden should have loved sports. No. Trump right now, actually as a few minutes ago, was in the booth with Fox Sports. Doing an interview with Kenny Albert and Jonathan Velma. And I don't know who Jonathan Velma voted for, but he had to hide real quick whether or not he voted for or against Trump because he was right in there. I think the thing, though, what you're seeing among other business things right now is that Trump is all over the business side of things on the entertainment front, whether it is sports. You're seeing the cable, network mergers, right? Like Warner Brothers Discovery, like they're up for sale, but and you even saw with CBS, with Stephen
and he's
Colbert
was also in with the Pete Rose controversy too. And you know what? We haven't got political in about a month or so in the 6 weeks we've done this show. And I guess here it goes because fuck you.
And Eli's in the clear because he can't be connected right now. So go ahead.
He seems like, and you mentioned with the entertainment sector that he's going after, be it the sports, be it, comedy, music, whatever here. He did chime in about Bad Bunny. But he is more so in a bigger deal, or maybe a more finite point, I guess. I don't know how I want to frame it. He's going after things that messed with him. Colbert made fun of him. Jimmy Kimmel made fun of him. The NFL told him he couldn't have a team, I think a couple of times. He tried to buy the Bills back in the day. And it didn't, and they did not want any part of that. He, also in the early 80s, why do you think he was going into the USFL so hard? He wanted to get an NFL team. He was told he wasn't cool enough to be in that club. And what we've seen out of this president is the most vindictive administration in recent memory, maybe ever. I don't know what John Tyler was doing back in 1835, but we are looking at one of the most vindictive, meddling presidencies in the history of this country. And maybe where sports fans thought that in years past it has been immune from this stuff. Keep the politics out of sports. Keep the politics out of sports. They've tried to do that very, very hard. Now he is making it front and center. He is now letting everybody have a chance to light him up or support him or whatever is the case here. And him, I know, is just something as frivolous as the name on the stadium. It's been, I've been here for 10 years. I can't get the name of the Cavaliers arena right. Is it Rocket Mortgage? Is it Rocket? Is it Quicken Loans? Is it, Shangri-La? Is it Richfield College? I don't know.
But that's the thing that kind of really, because of where they're in DC or just outside of DC, so they may not be able to get that. Like, it's a tough balance of what you can do, because even with that stadium itself, on one hand, everything that's going on with Trump and his influence is huge. But then you look and you're like, man, 10 or over 10 years ago, you lost RG3 on that crappy field. RG3 might have had long-term success with Washington. And then who knows what's going to happen with Jaden Daniels? Who knows?
Yeah, this could be the end of that. Who knows? Yeah.
And that would be tragic. So they're looking for they're looking for something, and yeah, he's in it. He's in it whether you like it or not. And I think the ultimate thing, and I'll say this real quick, I think the ultimate thing is if you say somebody is a hypocrite and you don't like, you can't be like, oh, we want this to happen, and then you do the exact same thing, because then you're a hypocrite.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You're a hypocrite.
They haven't cared about that the entire run here. And, and I was saying for a second there that, I understand it's the name of a stadium. It is a label. It is, nomenclature. But we've seen this venture out into stuff that isn't maybe as frivolous. You mentioned Colbert in there. There was a lot of rumor that the Paramount Skydance merger was going to have trouble going through if that change wasn't made on the president's behest. What happens if, in a year or so, I think the NFL TV contracts are pretty much laced up for the duration of this administration. But, what were to happen if the NFL has a foreign deal they want to do over in, they're playing Germany today. What if they want to play in Norway next year? Is the president going to look at them and say, well, you better name this, you better do that, and you better do the other thing? Or we're going to make sure our Commerce Department is not going to okay your merger, your business transaction, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, this president has shown, that he wants to meddle in things a little bit more than maybe other folks have. And I think they're going to, for me, it was the Geneva Convention, kind of, it was active combatants.
Right.
If you didn't want to talk politics and sports, I wasn't going to force you. I wasn't going to, shove it down your throat. I wasn't going to go crazy about it. But if you bring the subject up, if you throw it in there actively, then I will have no choice but to respond. Mm-hmm. And you brought it in there. You are now an active combatant. You now made that fair play. So guess what?
Yeah,
now
you're in the arena.
And we'll see what happens with the NFL. We all know the economic standing of all the owners. We know what economic standing typically votes for Donald Trump and the rest of the MAGA party. They might have liked it. They might have, behind closed doors, they're completely cool with things. So we'll see, because the NFL is going to be in a rock and a hard place. And if they're not careful, they're going to have to worry about the president's Q score and approval rating doing business for them. So, I don't know if they want that smoke.
My last thing on this, ultimately, because he's so combative, you don't want to lose fans either, right? Like, on one hand, there's a group of fans that like, oh, yeah, you're locked in step, everything's good. But too much political involvement from that standpoint does turn away fans. The fact that, he's on the broadcast while you're watching an NFL football game, talking about an active issue that's going on, there are some fans that will be turned away from that. Rob, I know we don't do, a ton of pro wrestling on this show, but there's a crisis.
I can't hear anything you're saying, Double A.
No, there's a crisis going on there where
I can't hear anything you're saying.
Oh, I don't know what's going on there.
Okay, now you got back. Now you're messing around here. I don't know what's going on with the internet today. Moon got booted off a couple times. I got booted off. We'll see. But what were you saying about the closing thoughts here on the presidential stadium bid here?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, it's going to depend on, if it's too much, then, it will turn people away. But to this point, the NFL is bulletproof. So,
well, the Titanic was unsinkable too. The Titanic was unsinkable too. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing I'll say to that. This is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I think Eli Moon has dropped out for good. I haven't checked my messages recently, but it seems like, here we are.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah. He, his computer and internet was fine until it wasn't.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened.
And we're getting splotchy too. So we'll try to expedite this and try to see as if we can take as little time as possible and see if we can keep this connection strong. We already talked about Clase. We already talked about Trump. We have a couple of big time stories here. Crime, I guess. We are, and I'm not counting the money laundering. We have an attempted murder charge and a possession of cocaine and marijuana charge. In the coke and marijuana, that's Tony Allen, former 15-year NBA guard. He was in the league forever. And with Antonio Brown, he apparently, at least he is accused of firing a couple of shots off a few months ago at a Miami celebrity boxing match. And it took this long for the feds to catch up with him. When I first read the story, I had to ask myself, how bad do the feds want you if they go to Dubai to get you? Like, we're not talking, county line, state line, continent line. We are talking about an 8,000-mile ride here. But it looks like both of these guys are going to be embroiled with some sort of legal trouble. I know Moon was talking about a video where Tony Allen's dude was trying to convince the cop that it wasn't his boy, it was just him. But either way, they're going to have some issues to deal with here.
It's going to be tough. First off, with Antonio Brown, prayers, just hope everything works out. But time and time again, he gets into these problems. And, when you start talking, when you're talking attempted murder charges, or not charges, but, allegedly.
Accusations. Yeah, he's being charged. Yeah, he was arrested. Yeah,
that's the legal word. If he's found guilty, there's nothing else I can say about AB. Nothing else I can say. You've had time and time again, you have opportunities. The Tony Allen thing's interesting. Eli briefed me on this story earlier today. And how many times have we heard, a group of friends or like your A1 partner or anything like that, you protect the brand. And sometimes
Carter Fall guy got into a lot of crap like that a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. And that friend or that partner, whoever it may be, literally he knows that if his guy goes down and Tony Allen, that he's toast too. Like, he's toast anyway. So he's saying, is in terms of protect the brand, I'll take the fall. I'll take all of this. I'll take the responsibility and go down because I have nothing else for myself anyway. That's a dangerous thing, but it's true. You see that time and time and again.
We do have a bit of breaking news, actually. We're lucky enough that we're actually doing this at 7 o'clock instead of 11 p.m. We have the one obituary that I was going to talk about here. Paul Tagliabue, former NFL commissioner, passes away today. They announced it anyway. But now to add on to that one, former Cavaliers coach, 15-year NBA player, Hall of Famer as a player and a coach. Lenny Wilkins has passed away at the age of 88. He was a player coach for 4 seasons, 3 with the Sonics, 1 with the Blazers. And he won an NBA title in 1979, Coach of the Year in 94. One of the founding fathers, really, of the NBA, coaching almost 2,500 games. And actually has an Olympic gold medal too. So he's done pretty much everything he can. He is only one of 5 men inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame as a player and a coach. He joins John Wooden, Bill Sharman, Tommy Heisholm, and Bill Russell. So another loss with the NBA, and I guess with Tagliabue and Wilkins both. Of course it's sad. Of course, they have a tremendous legacy. Of course, they made a lot of people's lives better. But this, compared to what we were talking about with Nick Mangold a few weeks ago, or hearing about somebody going in their early 40s, late 30s. They had a hell of a run, and both these guys used every minute on this earth to his fullest advantage. So rest in peace, Lenny Wilkens. Rest in peace, Paul Tagliabue.
Yeah, Lenny Wilkens. My first exposure to Lenny Wilkens was actually the year, I think it was the year that he coached LeBron. Actually, that little bit of time in the early 2000s.
Did he have LeBron? I thought that was Paul Silas that had LeBron to start out with.
No, Silas had him to start. And then Lenny Wilkens, I believe, was an interim coach.
Oh, okay. Like he kind of just took over
in between Paul Silas and Mike Brown. So that was my first exposure to him. And of course, obviously, I wasn't alive when he was coaching the Cavaliers, in the 80s and whatnot. But he obviously a huge impact. You always say it too. It's like, has anybody ever have a bad word to say about this person with Lenny Wilkens? I didn't hear a bad thing about him. So obviously, life well lived. And then Paul Tagliabue. I mean, think about what he has done. We haven't seen expansion in a long time, but you think of the teams that have been brought in under Paul Tagliabue. You think about how the NFL has really exploded into becoming the top sport in the NFL. And that run kind of started with Paul Tagliabue, and I think it has exploded with Roger Goodell as the commissioner. So I think Paul Tagliabue deserves a lot of credit in terms of the NFL. Really, when he took over in the late 80s, it was already number one. But it was kind of number one. But it really became number one under Paul Tagliabue.
Yeah,
and then Roger Goodell really opened it up. So again, credit to Paul Tagliabue. And I'll say this too. Roger Goodell took over as commissioner, 2006?
Mm-hmm.
So almost 20 years of retirement.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Oh, yeah. And the NFL's actually done really well with commissioners. They had Rozelle into Tagliabue, now into Goodell. And that's pretty much a Steelers head coaching tree at that point. It's just three guys in about 50 years. The one thing, though, and we talk about Tagliabue. There were a lot of good things that obviously he did. The European expansion started up a little bit under him. Free agency that was also enacted under his regime. He actually had a pretty good relationship with Gene Upshaw, the then head of the Players Union, and because of that, we talk about we got a baseball one coming up soon. We've seen it happen with football a couple of times. Paul Tagliabue might be the only commissioner that I can think of in the modern era that did not have a labor stoppage. So that is a kind of a testament to him keeping the peace. The one thing, though, and people in this town especially are going to be remembering, I don't know if he was the shooter, but he might have been an accessory to the murder of the Cleveland Browns. He had to sign off on that, becoming the Baltimore Ravens in the mid-'90s. We saw a lot of teams. I think both the LA teams were moving around during that. There were a lot of teams that did move, and there were, St. Louis to Los Angeles. We saw a lot of that kind of stuff. And there were a lot of fans who I think were told that their city isn't big enough or viable enough to feature an NFL team, or, hey, we can make more money somewhere else. So in a lot of ways, yes, good and bad, Paul Tagliabue did usher in the modern NFL.
I loved it. I mean, condolences to family, friends, loved ones, things like that. Rob, I don't know if you were going to get into it. There are other deaths that happened this week that are actually really tragic, particularly the one that happened with the Cowboys player this week.
Yeah, it's been, and we can almost lump that in there, even though obviously he didn't have, we're not talking about death with somebody here, but we can talk about, this almost with Antonio Brown and CTE and mental health, because that's about the only explanation that I have that somebody Marshawn Keeland actually texted his family after he got pulled over, goodbye. The story is that he was driving, the cop was behind him, pulled him over, or wanted to pull him over for a normal road violation. I don't know if it was speeding, running a red light, whatever. But he then promptly fled arrest in a high-speed chase. The cops gave up. And whenever they saw him next, he was sitting in his car dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Yeah, and I really don't know what to kind of say too much about this. It's another 25-year-old kid that's no longer with us for completely preventable reason. Honestly, I know it wasn't, there are things that are different with it for sure, but it kind of did remind me of the Kansas City Chiefs player in the parking lot in front of Andy Reid. I think that happened when we were doing the original run of the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to definitely look at the mental health of these guys and look at the way we think about it. Because I think we have the technology out there to help, and I think we have the resources out there to help. But mental health is still one of the few injuries. Like, if I got a bad knee, I'll go into the trainer's office. If I got a bad neck, I'll go into the trainer's office. Pulled hammy, trainer's office. You don't want to tell anybody that you're having trouble between the ears. You don't, that is in a lot, and especially in an NFL locker room where that is, testosterone fueled alpha male 101. You don't want to show perceived weakness, and that's what that would be. So, you in situations with concussions and mental health both, is really the only kind of problem the NFL has with players anyway, that the players don't even want to talk about. They don't want to bring it up. They don't want to bring it into the conversation. They just want to finish the game. So you have a group of people that don't really want treatment and a league that isn't forcing it down their throat. This is unfortunately what you get. I hope this is only, going to be the only time we hear about something like this decade, but I think we all know that law of large numbers says that it's probably going to happen again at some point.
And I do think, the NFL, I think the leagues, I think even like corporate America, I think we got to do a better job of kind of enforcing, hey, every player has some kind of mental health checkup. I don't even know how you enforce it. I don't know how you roll it out. I don't even know how you schedule it. But it's something that has to be done. And
I think that has to be something put in the union. That has to be something put in the CBA. But I think that is the way to handle it, though. If you make it mandatory for everybody, nobody has the stigma of being the one guy that walked in there, of being the one dude who said he needs help. If everybody has to go and that door is shut, that turns into a Catholic confessional at that point. You can say anything you need to and still save face. But, you're talking about, a profession now, and I will say it's profession because they make money, that has more money on the line, more pressure on the line, more exposure on the line. And then you even throw social media in there, and you don't have to be a worldwide celebrity to be on social media and have problems with that. I think it would be a tremendous step forward and a very good way to protect the investment of these players if they do have some sort of mandatory, if they have, just sitting next to the team doctor, they have a team psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the worst. And you got to keep it confidential. That guy cannot be perceived as running to the team and saying, well, hey dude, our defensive end wets the bed, that kind of stuff. So you need to have the trust there. You need to have it on the up and up. But yeah, I think if you make it mandatory for everybody, then there's no shame in it.
And as big as you are in the NFL, you will land the best people that's qualified to, hold those positions. Like you're not going to get, me to sign up to to treat these.
We're talking somebody from UH higher up, Cleveland Clinic higher up, maybe even in private practice doing a sports psychology gig on the side. Yeah, we're not talking about just having some 21-year-old grad student in there just, holding your hand to make sure you're okay.
And I think it has to be, it's so important that you have to serve everybody, right? And with the NFL, it's going to be the toughest to enforce that compared to like an NBA team where there's only 15 or so players on the main roster. The NFL roster, there's 53 guys on the final roster plus practice squad guys.
Yeah, so you're talking about 75 guys, really, when you get down to it.
Yeah, so like all of them have to be. So I would even.
You might need a staff.
Exactly. The NFL, what the NFL can't do is be behind the 8 ball like they were with the CTE situation years ago. They got to be proactive about this. I don't care if some numbnuts out there is going to complain like, oh, they're getting soft. These are things that have to be addressed so that we don't have these conversations again about a player. Not that it matters what he did in the game, but 6 nights ago, he recovered a blocked punt for a touchdown.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize I made the connection with that one. Yeah.
Like 6 nights ago.
So he's having a good season. You can't even blame Blad play on that. It's not like, oh my God, everybody hates me kind of thing.
So think about it. Like this man, again, this part really doesn't matter, but just to put it in context, this man, 2 days before his death, scored a touchdown in an NFL game.
I'll guarantee you, when he was walking out of the locker room that night and everybody was waving goodbye to him, nobody for 1 second thought that was the last time he was going to walk out that door. Yeah, and maybe it is on the teammates. We talk about it a lot. When we're not working, if we're not professional athletes, if you see something, if you're, if somebody's showing some weird signs, ask them. Figure out what's going on. Because it seems like. And again, I've never been in that mental spot, but it seems like that what fights you the most and absolutely wreaks havoc in your head is the perception that you're fighting this alone, is that you're off on an island by yourself. We make all the jokes. I'll probably make more jokes on this show about, me being a man. So I just hold the pain in until I die of a heart attack. But, maybe, you do need to go out and, talk to people, because the only way to figure out that you are not alone doing this and you are not alone fighting this fight is to communicate. And that's communicate with people who have that same issue. That's people, in your life that don't. And that's also, if you see somebody in your life who looks like they're having issues, say something, ask them, because you'd be surprised how much just somebody looking at you going, hey, is everything okay? How much that will disarm somebody and how much that will calm them down. Just the perception that there is somebody out there that gives a damn if they live or die. Yeah,
and I don't even know, and that's at the absolute extremes too. But even if things aren't going right, like change of a season, as they call it, something happens. And
the fact that it's dark at 4:30 in the afternoon now.
Well, yeah. Honestly, that kind of bothers me. But it is, but no, like you and Eli have been, have been great, to me, and everyone watching have been great to me. I mean, even I'll go inside baseball here. People watch us. They, they want to know who we are and stuff. This past summer, I went through some things, and a lot of people reached out, and 2 of the people, and Eli reached out too. 2 of the people that reached out was Rob and his girlfriend Nikki. Like, and they just checked in. It's like, hey, are you good? Hey, we're going to get you out of this house. Is this for a night? Kind of things like that. Those little things, that stuff matters. It really does. Those things matter.
And how many missed opportunities were there before it definitely hit the breaking point on Tuesday? And it's, it seems like, if you're going through issues, if you have that kind of problem going, and now all of a sudden you have an arrest on your record, that all of a sudden maybe things don't seem beatable. Maybe they seem too overwhelming. But again, just talk and be upfront. And the NFL, to your point that we just made originally here, the NFL needs to come up with a system. And I think all pro sports do. I don't think it's a bad idea for anybody to come up with a system.
Yeah, this would be a joint effort.
Well, I mean, and I know, we gave them shit this year and we'll give them shit again. But, in all seriousness, while we're talking about the human beings involved, if you're Juan Soto and you signed the record-breaking contract, A-Rod talked about this when he signed his $250 million contract. You have the entire city of New York hating you or loving you, depending on if you got on base or if you struck out, if you had a bad throw. You are being judged every frame. Now, you can argue that he signed up for this. He didn't have to sign the contract. But that being said, the pressure's still there. The public eye is still there. And I think it would be even, being a good person, that's great. That's a good enough motivation to do it. But if you want to look at it from another angle, you got a lot of money invested in these arms and legs and gloves and helmets and all these guys that are throwing, kicking, and hitting and doing everything. Wouldn't it be a good idea to protect that investment? Because maybe, okay, not everybody's on the brink of suicide, but I'm sure there is something that almost anybody in any locker room can get off their chest, and that might help them out in the long run for a 162, 16 game, 82 game season, whatever it is. I think we need to actually, in all pro sports, take a look at mental health.
Yeah. I mean, just think about how long, in all these leagues, how long a season can be. And I guarantee everything's not sunshine and roses every single day. Like, there's something we don't know, like, hey, there's a, you can have, kids at home, but you miss your kids because you're on the road, that weighs on you. Or, you're married to somebody, but it's a bad marriage. You're about to divorce.
Case in point.
All this stuff.
Case in point, and you can check this interview out on Dan Le Batard's YouTube page. He was talking to Stan Van Gundy, former NBA coach, had the Magic, the Heat, the Pistons. He's been around. He's a good coach. He's a good analyst. And he let it slip. Everyone knew his wife passed away. But he let it slip in an interview with Le Batard that she did it voluntarily. She ended her own life. And he was very quiet about it, especially with some of his colleagues and stuff, because they're on the road doing games every day. And, something that was so innocuous that they didn't know what was going on. He, Kenny Albert or whoever would look at him and say, all right, great game today, everybody. I'm going to go upstairs, grab some dinner and call my wife. And what Van Gundy wasn't saying to anybody is that he would just smile, go upstairs and then cry for 2 hours because he couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't make that call. And I wonder, and looks like he's dealing with everything just fine. It looks like he's doing the work he needs to do, but I just can't help but think, maybe, a little bit less pain would have been involved if maybe some of these guys knew what was going on. But yeah, again, like these are, and you call you get on these games, you watch NBA on TNT and now Amazon. I think that's where he's at now. You get all that going and you wouldn't have known that at all. And he did a very good job at hiding the pressure, but the pressure was still there. And I think, players, coaches, everything alike, you definitely need, you need someone there to check up
and
on.
Real quick, I know we're going to move. The last thing, because I think you bring up a great point about Stan, and like when you're working games as opposed to hosting a radio show, or you play games as opposed to working in the front office. What that means, you're on the road traveling, you're locked in, you're focused on the game, as opposed to when you're putting a radio show together, like you do at WTAM, you're in that studio. You don't just talk when the microphone turns on. Like, you're in there talking with your producer the entire time. And then, you've been on shows when you've worked with talent 5-6 days a week. So what's going on a personal level in the studio, in-house environment, as opposed to a game environment where you just travel, you cover the game, you pack your bags, and you go to the next town.
Yeah, and I think it's just, I've worked with radio guys that, you didn't know anything was going on, in or out, whatever was happening. And, maybe, obviously before that, we used to, before modern times, we used to say that as a compliment. That was being what a true pro was. It didn't matter what was going on, didn't matter, what was going on in the private life, or if the internet was busting up, or if you lost a co-host halfway through your show, you got to get it done. So, I think that attitude is probably a pretty good one to keep, but I don't think there should be any shame in hey, let's call a timeout. We're going to need a second here because, you doing what you're doing, either calling high school, basketball, football games, me hosting the radio show, us doing the podcast. It's just better, if you want to take the humanity out of it. It's just better when everybody's firing on all cylinders and has a clear head. So even if we weren't friends, we would have to be interested in that. But yeah, I think we definitely need to look at the way that pro sports especially treat, and maybe even college too, because you got a 19-year-old kid making $500,000 to play quarterback. That's a lot of pressure, and that's a lot of scrutiny to put on somebody who's a teenager. Now, again, they signed up for it; they should understand it. But
that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation because then you're talking about, especially now with the holidays coming up. Hey, congrats! You got all you're making it big. Where's my cut? You do got some family that's like, hey, where's my cut? And, before you know it, I think back to Stephen A. Smith had a role. It was it was SVU, Law and Order, and his character on the show, he was an agent for one of the players in this episode, and the player wasn't really performing too well. He was going to get signed by a new team, and Stephen A's character, Stephen A's like, you know what? Have you looked at your finances recently? He's like, no. All right, what does this person do? What does this person do? What does this person do? Oh, he's my homeboy. Yeah. He does this, he does that. And Stephen A's like, we got to get your stuff under control. What we're going to do, you need to fire all of these people. And no, I can't do that. I can't do that. All right, I'll do it myself. And then on the TV show, the next scene, he was dead in the middle of Manhattan. It was a good story. I don't know how that relates, but I guess it's just the whole family thing with the money and stuff like that. There's a lot of angles you can take with the mental health stuff, but it's just sad that story happened, and that it's really, really, really tragic.
Yeah, you're breaking up a lot again, Double A. I think the internet hates us today.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. In light of that, let's just do one quick story here, and we can send everybody here on their way. And obviously what we've learned today, too. We had some other stuff happening right now, too, going. Again, these are just news and notes that kind of get forgotten here a little bit. We have, and this was something I wanted to bring up a couple of weeks ago here. I brought up the name to Moon, and I think you earlier today, too, Tyler Skaggs. And that name should sound familiar. He is not on an active Major League roster right now because he's dead. And I'm pretty morbid, by the way, news and notes segment while I'm thinking about it here. Tyler Skaggs died of an accidental drug overdose a couple of years ago while playing for the Anaheim Angels. One of the team employees, who is now serving 20 years in prison for this, was proven to give him the fatal pill that ended up ending his life in a hotel room on the road. And now the family is looking for a wrongful death suit against Artie Moreno, the Angels. Again, you're going to sue the guys that have money. But I think with this one here, they might have an actual honest to God point here with this. They have a team doctor, team physician for the Angels, 30 years, a medical doctor, who was claiming that he did not know how addictive opioids were when he was prescribing 6 a day to one of the team employees who ended up going to jail for it. This is just, we talk about, we can almost put this in with the mental health and the well-being of players. These teams, if it is, drugs, if it is mental health, if it is any addiction going out right now, they need to have a little bit more stake in the game. And maybe this wrongful death suit, if it does result in damages, if Artie Moreno does have to pay, personally, I think he should pay the same amount of money he pays Anthony Rendon because they're doing about the same thing. Maybe it might take a wrongful death suit on this level that goes through discovery, that airs some dirty laundry, that will make these teams give a little bit of a shit about what these players are doing when they get out of the stadium.
Yeah, other than the fact that I don't know it's the right thing to do. I mean, again, to protect, you mentioned earlier, protecting your investment. I mean, that's really what needs to happen there. And that's a despicable story. I don't know too much about the story myself personally, but that's despicable. Like, dude, do better. Like, that should not happen at all. But that's, again, common sense, and you really got some true F-ups for that to take place and to not be responsible. Okay.
You were breaking up. I didn't know if you were done talking or if the connection's just absolute crap.
Yeah, see, now on my end, you froze for a hot second, and then now you're back.
Well, I froze because I didn't know if you were done talking yet. I think that might have been the actual thing here. But yes, let's actually. Do you want to, while we're dealing with our technical difficulties, let's just. Do you want to do what we've learned today and then be on our merry way?
Yeah, let's stumble to the finish line, and I'll start. So real quick, I learned this week I don't need ESPN.
Okay.
I learned this week. Let me paraphrase. Let me clarify myself. I don't need to pay for ESPN. I think Disney and YouTube or Google, they're both playing a very dangerous game with these with the carriage disputes. We talked a little bit about the inside baseball of it on last week's show. Rob and I brought up the carriage rates and things like that and why it's important. But let's look at some of the top properties that ESPN has as far as live game action. College football, specifically SEC football. All right, I do miss SEC football, but the team I root for, Ohio State, is not on ESPN. They're on Fox. They're on the Big Ten Network. They're on CBS. They're on NBC. So I don't miss Ohio State football. Okay, check. That crazy big noon kickoff finish, I didn't miss that. Saw that live. Check. Let's go to the NBA. I will miss Ernie, Kenny, Shaq, and Charles, but other than this upcoming Wednesday, they don't do another show till Christmas. And guess what? I can watch the NBA on NBC and Prime Video. And I pay $20 a month for the Cavs games on FanDuel. All right, you lose there. Monday Night Football. All right, that's a big one. But I don't know if you can see here. This thing right here, that's an antenna.
Yeah.
So I'm good there.
Yeah.
And I have football fix through the other channels. Thursday night, Sunday afternoon. Quite honestly, I'm footballed out after Sunday's game. Oh, and there's a wrestling show I have to watch and keep track of too against Monday Night Football. And I go to Planet Fitness, which means I see my dose of ESPN while I'm on the treadmill working out. The point is this. You don't want to train people on what to do when your product is not available. And Disney and ESPN is doing that right now.
You don't want people to form new habits.
They are telling me that I don't need ESPN, that I don't need to pay for ESPN. So me as a consumer, when I actually sit down and figure out my expenses, when I figure out what should I pay for, what's important, what's not important, maybe ESPN is not on that list. And if ESPN is not on that list, then maybe I shouldn't be paying as much as I'm paying for YouTube TV. Maybe I should get something cheaper that doesn't have ESPN on it at all.
Yeah. We're kind of learning how, things are, yes, you don't quite need ESPN to kind of get through life. And yeah, it's not a good idea that you're now training people to, there was a radio show I listened to every day. And it was during the pandemic. They went off air. They didn't have a guest host. They didn't even really play a replay or no explanation at all. And they were off air for about 3 weeks. Haven't watched that radio show much anymore because I found something new. And it's not even anything against that radio show, but I just found other ways to occupy my day. And yeah, here we are. But yes, this is what we have learned this week in professional sports and college sports and everything else on the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. There were a couple of things I learned this week. Number one, the mental health. We don't need to go into that again. I think we need to protect our players and our families and everybody here to possibly get everything right between the ears. Something that will become pretty hard to do if a few million people leave Medicaid. But I digress. The one thing that I have really learned, and this was it was taught to me a couple of days ago when the Padres hired Craig Stammen as their new manager. We are now seeing the way that Major League Baseball works, and maybe even minor leagues for all I know. The manager has probably the least amount of power they've ever had in baseball. It's the front office who's telling you the lineups. It's the front office who's giving you the logic on the pitching changes. Okay, after 100, get rid of them. After 2 times through the lineup, get rid of them, whatever. They're the ones doing that. And we are seeing now the manager, unless you got a Terry Francona, I think Skip Schumacher might apply to that too. He just got hired in Texas. But with a few exceptions, these managers, and one thing about the Padres' new manager, Stammen, is he has no actual managerial experience. Played 13 years in the bigs as a relief pitcher. He was with the Padres for a few years, and he joined the front office, serving as special assistant to the major league staff. He has no major league managing experience. He's also incredibly young. If we're talking about a player that really hasn't been retired all that long, he cannot be 60 years old. He cannot be an amazingly old dude here. 41 years old, younger than me. But you throw in Washington's manager at 33. You throw in Walt Weiss, who, okay, a little longer in the tooth, but doesn't have a lot of big time managing experience. And you even throw in, I know Guardians fans aren't going to want to hear it, Stephen Vogt. They don't want, Major League front offices don't want a Svengali with the lineup anymore. They don't need the magic 8-ball sorcery to do the day-to-day, inning-to-inning operations. What these guys want, and we got a player that was in the bigs for 13 years hired in San Diego. We have a dude who, 33 years old in Washington. We have Stephen Vogt, who's 41, 42 years old, big 10-year plus career. They want a young guy who can relate to the players and who do what he's told. And I have a feeling, unless you're talking about maybe 1 or 2 of the top echelon of managers, be it Bruce Bochy, who just walked away from Texas, Terry Francona, Skip Schumacher might be in there too, definitely Dave Roberts. Those guys, except for those exceptions, you are seen and not heard as a manager. You are just there to literally be a middle manager of the dugout. You are basically a shift manager at McDonald's, making sure you get through the whole thing okay and maintain corporate procedure and do everything by the book. That's all you're doing. So I am sad to say that, because we're going to have to correct a lot of fans who are bitching about why did Vogt take that guy out or why did he put that guy in. I hate to say it, it's probably not Stephen Vogt. So that's something that we're going to have to kind of recalibrate our brains here when it comes down to the way baseball teams are ran. And I think that might help you out as you are embarking through the 26th season and then beyond labor stoppage or not. But yeah, that's what I picked up this week.
The last thing I'll say, no matter what happened and no matter what we talked about today, on top of the serious stuff, nobody had a worse day than Emmanuel Clase and Mr. Ortiz. Nobody like that. To tell you, honestly, it didn't even sink in while we were talking about it in the A block. To tell you how much, S word that they're in right now, all the stuff that's going on, man.
Oh, yeah, and we'll put this in perspective. Emmanuel Clase is born in 1998. He's 27 years old. If he serves the full 35 years in prison, he'll be 62. I'm sorry, 65 years. He got 65. So I'm sorry, that's 92. If this book is thrown at him or Luis Ortiz, they don't have to worry about their baseball career. They don't have to worry about making a winter league date. They don't have to worry about anything. They will be worrying about the same shit that Aaron Hernandez had to worry about, that Ray Caruth had to worry about. That now, grant you, those guys are stone cold killers. This is not that at all. But I think you can make the argument that, yes, a life was lost when Aaron Hernandez did what he did. Nobody's life is lost doing this, but a lot of lives are affected. And if it's the team, guys on the team, if it's the sports staff, coaching staff, front office. And again, I bring up the guy, the dude selling a hot dog in section 125, the dude selling bootleg shirts across the street from the stadium. If they don't, if the team ain't playing, if nobody's showing up, then we all go home. We don't do the show. You and me have to talk politics for 2 hours, which I'm sure everyone would love. But yeah, that's how vital. And I know it's not death and destruction, but that's how vitally important it is to maintain the sanctity and purity of the game. And if they have to go and make an example out of these guys, if, maybe whatever penitentiary Clase is in 15 years can do a mock little Hall of Fame induction for him with a paper plate, as a Hall of Fame plate or something. But yeah, they're done, dude. They're, and at the very least, I don't know what their citizenship statuses are, but we have Clase from the DR, I believe. I don't know if Ortiz is from the DR or Venezuela, but we are talking about two immigrants, and we don't have to go into too much on how immigrants have been treated the last 6 months or so. So they might, even if they are free, they might be told to leave and never come back, and they might the federal government might actually have a reason for this one. So yeah, this is we're going to see how it plays out in court, obviously. But yeah, this is definitely the largest gambling scandal in baseball since the mid 80s, in the last 40 years, if not in the last 100 years.
It would be a bigger story if it was bigger names. That's really it. Well,
that's the screwy part. You got Clase is a 3-time All-Star. He led the league in saves a couple of years. He was unhittable for a couple of, baseball fans knew who Emmanuel Clase was, was. I mean, we're talking about him like he's passed on. But yeah, that's, that isn't, it's not like the kid for the Pirates last year who placed 400 bets on baseball games and got tossed in the minor leagues. Like, these are guys that actually have resumes that have, at least in the case of Clase. Ortiz, he's going to be sitting here for the rest of his life wondering what could have been.
Yeah.
And maybe even Clase too. I mean, Clase, he turned down probably about $100 million when it was all said and done with, in career earning, endorsements, in exposure, whatever, all for a alleged cut of a $450 purse, which implies, again, it ain't $450. It's probably not even $225. He did this for less than the league minimum, and that's where we're at.
Man. For those who tuned in late, we're going to wrap here in a few seconds. Go back and watch the first segment of this show. I know, we got heated over the Browns, but, about, what was you say, like 20 minutes in, we started talking about this?
Yeah, that was kind of the second half of that first segment, yeah.
Yeah, please go back and watch our discussion. Eli was with us too about that, because there's so many angles, so many pain points with that story. That is unbelievable what happened with that.
And I'm sure we will follow up on it next week, and I'm sure there'll be more developments, and we'll see what's happening. And it looks to be the nice thing anyway, at least as of right now, this looks to be contained with the two guys. I don't think we have to worry about looking at other guys on the roster with a shady disposition here. So at least, hopefully, this is the end of it. Hopefully, the Guardians can now move on. They'll have a chance to have Cade Smith as a closer from day one. These guys in the bullpen will have a little bit clearer of idea of what their roles are. It's not going to change, at least for that reason, in the middle of the whole thing.
If you're going to be bad, be truly, honestly bad, like the Cleveland Browns. Don't cheat.
Well, you understand, and I almost grabbed this audio from Pablo Torre Finds Out. He was talking to a pro gambler, and he said, do you understand how cooked the NBA is? When a team is intentionally losing games, we have to ask ourselves, is it because they're tanking or because they're on the take? We don't know why the team, there is multiple options on why the team could be on purpose losing games. And not for nothing, too. This isn't a federal thing. This isn't a legal thing. But that indictment for Billups says pretty clearly that he told people he was tanking, that the Blazers were sitting Lillard and they were tanking. And all gambling aside, the NBA has had some strong words on that kind of stuff.
Listen, gamblers. Oh man, I wish Eli wasn't able to. We have some technical stuff going on behind the scenes here, but Eli would be perfect for this. Gamblers, they track everything in terms of trends. They look at minutes. They look at they know little things that
this guy that Pablo was talking to. He was the first person to figure out. Before the game, the away team can pick what basket they shoot on, right? That's typically the way it goes. And he did crunch the data on years of numbers and years of results. And he figured out that 70 out of 100 times, a team playing defense in front of their own bench Either, they get it in the first half or second half, hits of the under 70% of the time. Made $40 million that way. And again, to Double A's point, that's how finite these guys are looking through results and stuff like that. And the fact that, when I heard what his plan was, I was shocked that nobody in the last 50 years had figured that out. So, yeah, and especially now in the era of, you think about it, Jimmy the Greek had to sit down with a pen and paper or an actual manual calculator. Now, all of a sudden, I just got to, plug some numbers in this idiot box in front of me, and it'll tell me everything I need to know. So, now that we have models that can run tens of thousands of simulations, that can run, tens of thousands of calculations even per second, then, this is a problem. And
especially, too, because they're doing it every night. Every night. Like, these are the ones that have League Pass. They have MLB Extra Innings. They watch every game. They absorb it. They do.
They're also the guys talking to assistant coaches and trainers and the valet guy. Oh, I saw Dame Lillard limping in today. I don't know if he's going to play or not. And again, that kind of stuff is what we're talking about here. That is the stuff that these guys are getting banned for, is looking and saying, well, the knee's feeling a little iffy today. I don't know if I'm going to go tonight, and telling the wrong person that. So
I'm going to play through the first quarter and then sit, and then I'm going to be injured and sit out.
Or you even got like Damon Jones with the information he gave out. I think it was a LeBron injury status. LeBron knew nothing about it. LeBron was going about his day. He was getting ready for the game and he couldn't go. So there was no impropriety there from LeBron, the Lakers training staff, the Lakers team. What it was Jones going into business for himself, picking up the cell phone, calling an acquaintance or two and saying, yeah, it'll be announced in a couple hours, but while you can, hit the under, hit the favorite against Los Angeles, do everything you can. And that's the kind of stuff, and that's how innocent this shit is. That's how, it could, we sometimes think, and who knows with Clase, I'm sure it'll get described a little bit more in detail as the weeks go on, but we think a lot of these guys is like Ocean's 11 sitting in a big casino or a big, boardroom figuring this shit out. It's not that. It's, it's Double A sending me a text saying, oh, hey, Delonte West is not going to be playing today. So they'll announce that, if he's covering the game, if you're sitting there in the media and you get a murmur that he's not playing, he texts me and I place a bet on that. We're both looking at possible felonies. So that's how simple this is to get screwed. And baseball, and I know we said it over and over again, baseball, especially the NCAA, because you're dealing with a lot of people who aren't millionaires, who want to be, but aren't yet. Football, basketball, everybody, because, you talk about, you just said the NFL is bulletproof about a half an hour ago. Find out that the Super Bowl was fixed. See how bulletproof it is then. Find out. Either a player, a referee, a replay official, anybody. Figure out that a Super Bowl or an AFC title game, NFC title game was straight up Rothstein White Sox fixed. I'll guarantee you the Kevlar will fall off the NFL pretty quickly.
Yeah, you better choose whether or not you're on the right side or not, because that would be a huge problem, and honestly, problem. Yeah, and just fans are smarter. A lot more people watch sports. A lot more people consume sports and entertainment. I don't even think really like fun prop bets are allowed here in Ohio.
No, there aren't. No, like this. I think it's defined as if there is something that has information that can be leaked, a la the length of the national anthem, a la the flavor of the Gatorade in the bath at the end. People know that. People set that up. They timed Nicki Minaj or whoever singing the national anthem. They know what's going to come into. So yeah, those are illegal in Ohio, but they might have to just get rid of all props in general. Or I did hear get rid of the unders.
And they could. The problem is everyone's in on it. Like the movers and shakers, they're not going to get rid of it. They're going to tweak it to make sure that it works for the movers and shakers. Like ESPN. We didn't have time to get into this story. ESPN dropped in Penn Entertainment dropped ESPN Bet. ESPN didn't leave the gambling business.
No, they just redirected it.
10 minutes after announcing they were dropping that partnership, hey, we got a new deal with DraftKings.
Yeah, for less pressure. You're like ESPN and Penn were in partnership with that sports book. Now, now it looks like ESPN's going to be, partners with, hey, odds brought to you by DraftKings. They're not going to have their own book. That'll direct you to DKs, but
that's going to be good. All right, man. Since Eli had to go early,
and I'm basically hacking up a beer ball right now. What's up?
We're going to let you watch the Steelers tonight. Big game against the Chargers. That's a big one.
Yeah, well, I think the Chargers under Harbaugh and Staley, they have had this thing where they just can't seem to get 3 games over 5 or 4 games over 500. 3's about the best. They're 6-3 today. Based on that logic, I think it's they're due for a loss. So other than that, I'm pretty much open-minded to the whole thing. Because, again, 2 good teams. This is a game that either one could lose and not feel bad about it. So we'll see.
We'll see how kind of where they stand. All right, Rob, take us home.
All right. For Eli Moon, who is somewhere in parts unknown right now, I don't know if he's at a concert, got picked up by an ICE agent, whatever. But yes. I send his best wishes. We got the smiling fool over there, Anthony Alford. And I am the grumbly old man, Rob Rozycki, and you have been listening to The Main Event on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. And we will see you next week. Have a great one.